Alright, White, you lead the way. I'm chilling.
Sweet. Okay. So let's just introduce everyone. So I'm AchromicWhite. I've been hanging around this community for like 10+ years. I've been playing mostly just Tiberian Dawn, and also worked on some mods. Just want to head around and just sort of other people want to introduce themselves as well.
Sure, my name's Gavin. I also go by Ferret online. I've been with CnCNet since 2009, so about 10 years now. Yeah, I just kind of chill and hang out, so that's what I do.
And make mods.
Make mods, make maps.
You make fun mods.
Wreck scrubs online. It's kind of like my thing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So I'm Jagger. I've been here about 9 years now. I play mostly Tib Dawn, sometimes Mental Omega. I hang about. I make angry balance arguments and generally be a massive nerd. And wreck noobs. And make mods. Like, I made one mod and it was like total hell and memes and stuff. And, yeah, it was really fun.
That was pretty epic.
I can't wait for it to go live on the internet and stuff. Yeah, that's me.
Next, Lovehandles star.
Okay, my name is Lovehandles. I've been in this community since I think 2010, roughly. I've mostly been a Tiberian Dawn player, but I've done a bit of Alert and doing 2000 as well. And that's kind of the gist of it, I think.
Lovehandles also wrecks noobs online. He doesn't like to admit it, but...
Oh, he used to wreck me online as well.
Is it? Well, I don't think anyone wrecks Lovehandles online, from what I hear, so...
I mean, I only learned this game because I was a noob who wrecked online.
Right, you just get on to some guy named Dudes just fucking wrecking everybody. You're like, God, who is this guy?
It's the Legend 27, of course. Yeah, that's an old name.
Yeah, that's no name, I was about to say. That's very old. Almost ancient.
Tort?
Yeah, so my name is Tore, and I am one of the founders of CnCNet. So I've been here since it started in like 2000 and... Actually, since 2007, right?
Damn.
And...
Who just got banned just now?
Yeah, I hope someone get banned.
And the game I keep playing on CnCNet is the original Command and Conquer, even though I get wrecked all the time because I don't know how to economy. So yeah.
Refiners are OP, you just spam them and...
Yeah, can confirm that if you build one more refinery than the other player, you automatically win.
So you just take the whole map and then you just win.
Yeah. You just cover the entire map with refineries, and all of a sudden you have infinite money, and your opponent has no map control. It's like, oh, perfect.
They go to scout and they already have the whole map. They're like, God, what the fuck? You're like building a cute little base. I got like walls and guard towers and shit. And you're like, oh yeah, by the way, I have like 30 mammoth things.
Yep.
I'm the guy who can have 15 refineries and still get broke somehow.
Yeah, I know that feel.
That just means you're really good at spending your money. That's actually a good thing.
Yeah, but it's not much good if you spend it all on minigunners. Or Humvees, actually. That would be even worse.
That's true. Yeah, because they'll all just get flamed or run over by a tank.
There's no more Tiberium on my side of the map. Just like send all my harvesters to attack.
Yeah. Gotta free up that supply. Oh, wait, wrong game.
10 games, one of them harvesters. It happens.
Hey guys, it's Ferret here with another tutorial. So you want to learn how to be a nod master, right? So pretty much you got this nod buggy button you press, and you be a fucking nod. That's how you play nod. Alright, end of tutorial. Have a good day.
Damn, that's the most in-depth tutorial I've ever seen.
Is that like how you play Red Alert? You just like choose Russia, make a war factory, make more war factories, and then just press heavy tank.
You gotta press heavy tank from like the moment you get a war factory, because otherwise you have to behind while you're building all the other crap. It's like, oh, you made a miner, I win. You just rush.
I wouldn't be surprised if some of these guys have auto clickers. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Just like start
I'm sure
making
Funky
heavy
knows.
tanks after you deploy your right after you build your construction yard. Just like press the heavy tank button, you know where it is just to practice.
Yep. At the end of the day, the one who wins presses the heavy tank button better than the other player. What can I say?
So, yeah. What do we have
Cool,
on
so, Jim actually asked the community some questions, and we've got them here so we can like blast through those. The first question they asked was there anything sacred that you would advise to not be changed? And I think the main thing that the community constantly came out with was don't change the music, which it sounds like they're not, but maybe they'll add extra music. They brought Papaki back, so
I mean,
maybe there'll be new music.
I don't know.
Anything else you guys can kind of think that you don't think should be changed, or
What on the topic of music, it's like, well, the soundtrack already exists, so I mean, they might remake it in a high def version, or I don't know.
yeah.
I think
The
they were
one
trying to
thing I
remake
would-
it in like a better like bit rate or some shit or something like that. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I'm not an audio engineer. I don't know shit about it, but
No, me neither.
they're trying to like do something with that. So
Yeah.
I think
The
this-
one thing I would like to see would be like a proper player. So have like all of the CNC one tracks, but also the red alert tracks. And outside of the game, you can build a playlist of whatever songs you want, and then that's your playlist in game. So if there's some songs that you don't like, you can kick them.
Yeah,
And if there's songs that you like from the other game that you would like to hear while you play, you can just put it in there. And then like everyone's happy, right? Because you can make whatever the heck you want.
that would be quite nice actually. But yeah, I think music is pretty no-brainer here.
Yeah. Is there anything else you guys think is something that you like should not really be changed at all? What about like the in-game sounds? Would you want to hear like any of those changed, or do you think that like the audio sounds for all the weapons and things should remain the same?
I was thinking more or less just kind of like have an option to be able to. So like for example, like I could be like, okay, you go in the option menu or whatever, and be like, okay, I want the original game sounds, the original music. But then you could also
Yeah.
have like a toggle button that'd be like, okay, maybe I want the upgraded quote unquote kind of sound effects, right?
Yeah.
And just be able to like toggle it from there. Blizzard did the same thing with Brood War Remastered. For example, like if you just press F5, you can switch between the 4K and then the actual like original graphics, which is pretty cool.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
Something like that. I think that would be probably the best thing to do.
I didn't know they did that.
Yeah, so you can literally switch between the graphics in game, which is pretty damn cool.
That's that's very cool, but I don't know if that'll actually necessarily be required. But I feel like that this is gonna sound really weird. I feel like that's a quality of life thing that isn't necessary. But I mean, if they have the time to just add it because they can, sure.
The one thing I will say about it is like if you're playing it with like the new graphics, you know, if you haven't played the game for a while, you see one of the new units and you're like, wow, that looks pretty neat. What does the old one look like in comparison? You can literally push the button. So even if you were just like playing the story, the campaign or whatever, and you're like, that looks neat, how did it used to look? You can just push the button. It's like, oh, that's how it used to be, neat. And then you can switch back and continue playing. It's like, you're right, it's a bit of a quality of life thing, but it is very cool.
I
because
feel
you
like
find
there'd
that
be some strat roulette system that will constantly switch your graphics every 3 seconds just to annoy people.
Yeah, because for some reason, some players are really like adamant about playing like how the original was. For example, like people who always play at 640 by 400.
Oh, I
Yeah.
can't stand that.
I don't understand it, but like all power to them. I don't really care. I mean, like that's their experience, right? So I just yeah, I don't know.
I'll admit, playing with a massive resolution makes it a little bit too easy at times. But I actually, hang on, no, that'll move on to the next bit, because I think the way StarCraft does it is everyone has the same field of view. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually think that's probably a necessary thing.
Oh, that's a good point, actually.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
have
we'll
some
talk a little about it when we get to the talking about the ladder and stuff for it. I think that's a really important thing to mention. Yeah.
But in terms of like anything sacred, I don't know. I would just mostly just keep it the same. I mean, like, you can't really change it. You can't fuck that up. Like, you really have to fuck that. Like somehow fuck that up. You know, to make I don't know. Like, I don't know how you could change something that's considered like sacred. I guess. I mean, like it's C&C, right? You're literally just remaking it. Like, there's no way you'll be able to screw that up unless, you know, it's
Yeah,
somehow.
I do feel like
Unless you go like full CNC 4 or something.
Yeah,
But
if
then
you go,
that doesn't
if you
really
go
count,
full
does it?
EA,
Look, guys, we remastered it. It's CnC4 and like bad
No.
graphics. Yeah.
Look, if anyone says that there's already a CNC remaster out there, I'm totally calling it Tiberium Wars and not fucking that thing.
just please don't have it locked in 30 frames, please.
We'll lock it to 12 instead.
The other thing was videos. That was another one that I was.
Like,
Like, should the videos be changed? So I think like the obvious ones that shouldn't be changed are like the briefing videos.
Oh, the briefing videos were pretty good actually. I wonder
Yeah,
what they're gonna
and
do
if
with
you
that single
wanted to
player.
redo them, you'd have to get like new actors, right? And you would have to bring back Kane, so you'd have Joe, but Joe would be quite a bit older looking, and so I think really the briefing videos probably you can't really touch. But the other videos of like the actual like bases and the units and stuff, like the stealth tank videos and the
Yeah. Those were a
Those
nice little touch, weren't they? They're kind of a bit of a weird niche, but I don't know. They're a little.
they're
But I
quite cool.
wouldn't mind some new ones of those actually. Like not necessarily
Yeah.
remastered ones, but just straight up new ones. That would be quite neat.
Oh yeah,
Just like
Yeah.
here's a clip of a mammoth tank killing everybody. It's like it's just like the real game.
Another thing too about like the actual CGIs though is just like that was such a timestamp within that time. Like,
Yeah.
for them to actually be able to recreate those sort of
Yeah.
visuals at that time was like a huge deal. In fact, that's actually was a huge selling point during that time, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Just
It feels weird talking about that at this day and age.
like
I
if
actually
you want
found a
to be
video on that recently, and there was like it wasn't just the fact of them making it, but also being able to like put it onto a CD was somehow a big problem. Like being able to play it off of a CD, like something to do with the data transfer on computers at the time was like really difficult. So they had this big, quite a bit of trouble just like getting it to do that. But it's something that they really wanted in it, and obviously like when people loaded that up onto their computer and like that just
Yeah.
pops up, because like the first thing that happens is it plays a video and then it's like pick a team and then it's straight into a briefing video. Like you don't even go to a main menu. It just from memory, just when you first boot it up, it just does that.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
big thing
so
too, because the FMVs
That'd
were
be
so
pretty
large.
awesome.
CDs
Yeah.
could only carry so much data, you know, so that's why they made 2 CDs in the first place. Was
Yeah.
because they didn't
Yeah.
have enough data in the first, or like enough space to actually fit all the FMVs into them.
And they kind of had that nice extra marketing point. It's like, hey, play with your friends.
I bet you they didn't even think about that. They're probably like, oh shit, how are we gonna fit all these FMVs in these CDs? And all of a sudden they're just like, wait a minute. The marketing guys are sitting there, it's like, dude, we have 2 CDs. Let's just market that you can play with your friends. Like, oh, great idea. And then they fucking threw it on there. So I
mean,
bet you something like that.
even if they thought of it that way, it's still pretty damn good marketing. It's like, hey, you have friends? Here, beat them at this video game that they don't know how to play.
Yeah, the entire FMV thing was a big deal at the time, especially compressing it down so like a 2x CD-ROM could actually, transfer the video to your computer and have them play it. So they developed their own like compression system using vector quantization.
That's a lot of mumbo jumbo I don't understand, but it sounds complicated and awesome at the time.
And another problem was like the videos were supposed to be full screen. There are like other games at the time who did have videos, but they were like in these tiny little postage stamps on the screen.
Yeah.
And on Command & Conquer they were like full screen. That was a big hurdle to overcome.
Yeah. Very cool.
I actually think like the whole... Oh, yeah, go on.
I was just going to say, is there anything else we want to go over of stuff that shouldn't be touched, or?
Well, I mean, the whole... As I say, go back to this, like the whole full screen FMV thing really added to the atmosphere of the game. Because it sort of put you in the middle of the conflict at time. Like, the classic one has to be the briefing video, where the guy cuts out like 3 times. You don't actually know what you're supposed to do. It's like, wait, what's my mission? Like, it actually makes the player be like, oh god, what am I doing?
In terms of like not touching anything, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, it's like a remake or a remaster at this point, so I mean, I don't know. I just kind of add shit from the the tech that we have available today and put it in, but obviously keep the game original as much as possible.
At
Yeah.
the end of the day, if it's fun, we'll probably do alright.
I don't know. I think especially since the Westwood guys are on there, I don't think they'll be screwed up. I mean,
No.
I'm sure they'll be like, "Yo, let's change." EA's probably like, "Yo, let's change this," and they're just like, "Fuck no, don't touch our masterpiece."
One of the things that they did bring up was harvester pathing specifically. They were like, should we redo the harvester pathing? I can't remember where I heard that, but that was like an official. That was one of the things that they actually put forward. They were like, should we fix the harvester pathing? So they were quite aware that
I remember getting a big response from Jim when I mentioned while he was talking about how rocket physics are so random, and he's like, "Oh, should we change that?" I'm like, "I think we should." And then Funky was like, "No, never change anything." It's like, oh my god. I think that there needs to be some change to certain things, but the whole thing should still play like very similar.
There's
You
like
would be able to go ahead.
there's one thing I would have them not a concept they don't that they shouldn't change, and that is that most weapons are projectiles.
Yes, actually,
That
that's
they're
a
not
good point.
hit scan.
That's
Well,
actually
typically,
really
like,
Right, for like SA weapons.
well, like none of them are hit scan, right? Because even the SA ones technically aren't.
well, they
Their speed is just max. That's all. It's
yeah,
all
they're like kind of hit scan, but the damage is just random. Like they're hit scan, but in a random location. It's bizarre.
They're still applied to a location and not to the unit, right? Like that's the thing.
Yeah,
So if you think about what a hit scan essentially is supposed to do, is it's like it basically applies the damage directly
But
to the unit.
if you remember in
But
Red
it
Alert,
doesn't,
like
it applies to the map, which is why like you can do like a double headshot with a commando, right? Like,
yeah,
if the enemies on top of each other, you can snipe two people with one bullet.
yeah. But the thing about that is, in Red Alert, the projectiles are a lot more accurate. So the hit scan things like pillboxes and stuff are like perfectly accurate, but the damage is still a bit mixed.
I
Yeah.
think
But
that's
the missiles
because,
are worse.
Oh god, the rockets!
I think that's
Oh.
because with like pillboxes and stuff like that, when the damage is increased, I've noticed is that it seems like the AOE is almost increased
Yeah,
as well.
the
Like the spread, I'm not
projectile
sure if
like
you noticed that.
explosion changes depending on its damage, which is something that should not exist in the remaster. That should be a single defined thing, like of explosion type and whatnot.
Yeah,
That-
the way
right.
to spread it is that it's something like every pixel that's out from the actual place where the projectile hits, it minuses off damage, and
Yeah.
so if you go higher damage, it spreads more because it's just minusing off an amount of the top damage until
Well,
it finally.
I think it's actually animation damage because when I got like damage to a certain value, it would just play a new animation which did completely different spread of damage. It's like, oh, okay then.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's
Right,
super
so
cool.
you had to like, kind of like,
So I
don't know.
would like
go ahead,
to
go ahead.
see that like standardized. So like instead of it having sort of just a random number, but like the player could define, or the devs even would define which animation would be playing from this weapon.
Yeah.
right, I agree.
That
I mean,
that makes it easier on a modding side of things as well.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna
100%.
say. Okay, cool. So, so now that we've talked about what we shouldn't change, while we're talking about what we should change, if you could change one thing in the original games in the way they behave, what would it be and why?
For the love of God, give me a build queue.
Yeah, you actually want
Please give me a
build
build
queue.
queue. Yeah.
I
Make
may be against build queue.
allow-
So build queue is
Brownie
actually the
points.
next question. So don't say build queue because build queue is the next question.
Oh, dang.
Building multiple
Hmm.
wall sections at a time.
yes.
No.
Oh my god,
that
yes.
actually would be- Yeah, that would be pretty good.
I'm about to have
Um,
the sickest jump wall.
I'm really tempted just to be like no self advantage.
Yes, please get rid of
yeah,
that shit.
I'd actually agree. South
That's
advantage
actually
is
like
South
this feels like
advantage.
a pretty simple change to make. That is no matter how the rest of the game is balanced and whatever. At least all maps aren't self advantaged. You know, like it's something that's so good across the board.
I think one thing I would change, I'm outside of South Advantage because I fully agree with what you just said, is the general responsiveness of some units. Like, if you order a group of units to attack something, some of them are just like, nah, fuck you, and do nothing. Like, this is a problem even in the RA2 engine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've noticed that actually, and especially things happen if you spam click a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of them just kind of go, I don't know what's going on. And
it can be a bit janky if you're doing lots of things.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay, so that's a very good one. Yeah, the actual responsiveness of units, because you don't even often check that units are doing it. Because you like select and say attack, and then you'll go to another area on the map.
So you've got a lot of things.
And come back and like, why is this tank standing here doing nothing? Ah!
Like, you've got a lot to do. You don't have time to constantly babysit this one tank that isn't doing anything.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So responsiveness, South Advantage.
So for the South Advantage thing, the projectile actually comes at the top of the actual unit itself. At least I've noticed with like AGTs.
It's basically
infantry as well.
It's basically just a programming error, really, isn't it?
Right.
I think probably...
That'd be an easy fix,
I think the projectile actually does move the same amount of distance every time it's fired, but it's where the projectile spawns.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
Right, exactly. It kind of spawns at like the top of the unit, depending on what it is.
Yeah, because like the game is drawn like isometrically or however you want to say.
Yeah.
And so in order to make that appear correctly, you have to make the projectile spawn in a weird place. But the unit isn't spawning in a weird place, right? Or isn't in a weird place comparatively, and so therefore all of the projectiles are slightly north. So yeah, fix that.
I mean, considering the nature of the problem, it probably will work itself out. So we probably don't have to worry about that too much.
Oh, for sure. Super important that we mentioned that, because otherwise they're probably not going to catch it. But
I will say that will ruin my trick of killing obelisks with artillery, but here we are. Like, if you do it from this specific tile, from this specific direction, you can outrange it. It's like, whatever, fuck it, I'll just buggy rush you. But yeah, South Advantage will fix itself, but it's a problem that I would like changed.
Yeah. Anything else that we would say is your one thing?
What is just for like changing shit, pretty much? Or adding things?
Well, it says what's one thing you would change, and why. So you could be like, halves the pathing.
Well, I mean, harvester pathing should go without saying, but we should need to talk about that.
So halves the pathing isn't sacred? Okay, good.
Harvester pathing is most definitely not sacred. Harvester pathing is the one thing that makes me consider why I play this game.
Harvester pathing, rally point stuff, South Advantage.
Rally points would be kind of nice, actually.
Build queue, building like organization. They mentioned like the whole RA2 tab system. I think that'd be beneficial.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Those are totally questions.
Go on now.
Can't say that.
Alright, next one, wait.
Okay, cool. So the next one is would you like to see a build queue?
Yes.
I'm not against a build queue. Now, the only condition in which a build queue would be bad is if Red Alert in a remaster is kept in the exact same state, because then it's just like, oh god, help me. My opponent has the same number of tanks as I do. Well, now there's no fun.
But then you can focus. But there's a pro and con to that. Then you can focus more on like micromanagement, for example.
Yeah, but you're micromanaging one blob of units. That's so boring that no one would want to play that.
But that's where it comes down to like a balance thing. And that's why I made Tab Hero like, yay, my mod kicks ass. RE1 sucks. Like I said it.
That's why I made my own mod with like nukes and shit. What's a proper nuke? You haven't seen one yet.
I mean, that is actually kind of a good point, and we'll get more into this at the balance area of it. But like the balance for Tiberian Dawn is not too bad. Like it could be better, but it's not too bad.
I mean, like, other than like a couple of problem units that we all know about, it's actually like pretty good.
Pretty legit, and there's sort of a couple of unbuildable units, but like it wouldn't be too hard to bring those in. But like by comparison, Red Alert's a real mess, and so like trying to use the same philosophy for what you can and can't touch for both games seems weird because actually they're pretty different.
Yes,
in,
they're very different
They
games.
play way different.
regard.
They play way
Because
different.
you would think intuitively that we'd want to like put the same philosophy to both of them. That it's like, okay, well, are we only tweaking the balance or are we overhauling it? And yet, like, I'd want to see Ferret and Dawn tweaked, and I'd like to see Red Alert overhauled. But at the same time, the Red Alert community might not want that, so I don't want to speak for the Red Alert community in that regard. So it's tricky.
The Red Alert community are a bit fickle to deal with sometimes. You mean,
Yeah.
we've all been on the CnCNet lobby before.
They're very, very elitist, for sure. I would say just have like a classic mode, you know? Where it just like has all the original rules, shit like that, and I think it'd be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It
I
probably
agree
end,
completely
Yeah,
though,
right.
but I really
probably
think that everyone
like
needs to
end
change.
up like one of those party modes in StarCraft where like completely random shit is happening, but it's like, hey, it's party mode, but basically it's just you could only build tanks. So it's basically just the original game.
Oh, you mean like Q-Master, something like that?
Yeah, pretty much.
It's kind of sad though, because like sometimes you have some people who kind of show up. They're like, "Dude, I haven't played this game in like 10, 20 years," you know, and then they host a game, you play with them, and you just watch how they build, and you're like, "Now that would be really really cool."
And then you get that
And
guy
then-
that
And then they have to see how the game is actually played, and then they never. It's just super sad with that.
Well, then they leave, right? And that's why the Red Alert community is the way that it is, because the only people that are hanging around are the people that like to play tank.
Right.
You know?
yeah.
So you've got a certain type of people for that community now. So I think Ferret's probably right on that. You probably want to do both, right? You want to have a version of it that's more closer to how the balance in like an open RA was, where it's like a total overhaul of it and everything's more sort of smoothed out, or more like Ferret's mod, however you want to sort of say.
Yeah.
And then also have the classic mode so that you don't totally piss off like the RA community. I don't really see another way around that, really.
No, I don't see another way around that either. There's no real pleasing of both parties there. You just sort
Which
of
is kind of funny because, like, Tiberian Dawn by comparison, you almost could just do like a slight tweak of the balance, keep the units rolls the same, and people would probably be, you know, people who like the game as it is would probably be reasonably happy with that anyway.
Yeah. I mean,
You
you
can
know,
definitely see. Go ahead, Juggle.
I mean, you look at RA strats, it's like, okay, like 9 out of 10 strats are like, oh, this is how many tanks you make. And I'm just that guy in a tournament who's like, fuck you, I'm just gonna make mine layer strats and win sometimes. I actually did this, and I actually won a couple games with mine layers. It was a solid, hearty meme, but also really stupid.
But the fact that you can't incorporate that into a normal game, like just any game in general, that's where it's just kind of like there needs to be something done there, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think every unit should be able to be utilized in some sort of way,
Yes.
you know, and it should have a purpose, you know. So like if I build a fucking Humvee, it should be able to kill infantry. But if you have one unit that can kill absolutely everything and every other unit is not viable, then it's just like, what's the point in, you know?
Yeah.
I was gonna add something, but I forgot. Oh yeah, so I was gonna add too, like, you can tell the intent with how they designed, like, the single-player missions in Tiberian Dawn, like, how they wanted the game to be played.
Yeah.
Like, they give you, like, a small set of group of units, right? And you kind of have to go about and make sure that these units are alive for the whole mission, right? But then you kind of hop on to, like, multiplayer, for example, and it's like a whole different ball game.
Well, single player and multiplayer will always be a whole different ball game because of how like AIs and other shit like that work.
Absolutely, but some people, I don't know how to word this, just kind of like that tactical type gameplay should be somehow be incorporated into the multiplayer aspect.
I think Tiberian Dawn definitely still has that even now, but Red Alert really doesn't.
Yeah. Tiberian Dawn and Red Alert are completely two different games, even though the engine is pretty almost identical in a way, but
I'd love to see Tiberian Dawn
different,
with
they're
an
so much
AI.
different.
Oh my god.
yeah, that would be actually pretty.
A single player missions where the enemy doesn't just send everything to the very north of the map to kill you is like a huge improvement already.
I got your northernmost unit, haha!
Yeah. Oh, what's that? I've left a minigun at the top of the map. Better airstrike it.
Yeah, a modern AI would be a very good improvement.
Yep.
an AI that just doesn't like on a path beyond go and like, yeah, I'm gonna build my defenses on this shore right behind my base.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm expecting a naval invasion, even though my enemy is like right next to me.
I'm expecting a naval invasion, but I don't actually know what a naval yard is.
Yeah.
Time has
Yeah,
advanced
they
so much between
They
when
should
the game was made and now.
the AI is definitely not sacred. That'd be super awesome to see a good AI and yeah, a skirmish mode in that for CnC1.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's no...
the only thing on build queues for Tiberian Dawn, just getting back to the question, then getting back to the build queues, because I look at like GDI and it's like, okay, you build tanks and then you kind of have to build some infantry at times to spend the money down, but for Nod it's sort of like you're only largely working off of the airstrip, and so it's like one person's just slamming the buggy button like 100,000 times and the other person's trying to like balance between the two things.
I will
So that would
say
be
that
kind of...
like unit compositions are not affected by a build queue. Like
Oh, really?
if you want to run a certain unit composition that is just like buggy, you will in the current game you just click the buggy icon 100 times. It's no different.
Yeah,
The only difference is that if you do that, your micro will be slightly better, but like the overall effectiveness of something that is just buggy shouldn't actually be that different.
yeah.
If you want to incorporate like micro and things like that, then you actually have to change like the map layout itself, like the board that they're actually playing on. So like limit their money in some way, have like terrain be a little bit more chokier. I noticed that actually helps.
I wonder if they'll implement actual like height physics. Because
That'd
that's
be
something
interesting.
that
Have some
this
sort of
game,
like high ground system.
yeah, that's something this game doesn't actually have, which is kind of weird considering how the cliffs look.
It would be super badass if we had like some sort of like terrain advantage, kind of like with like Brood War, for example. Like if you're on the high ground, then you have like a percentage.
Well,
to
even
miss,
like
like
Red
that.
Alert 2 does, but maybe in a slightly less clunky way. Seriously, if you play Red Alert 2 and have a hover unit go down a cliff, it starts flying and it looks hilarious. But, I mean, the logic exists, so... It's just a question of making it, like, not super defender-sided and not super boring.
It's just a matter of like how you implement it, you know,
Yeah.
how and what you implement.
It'd need a lot of testing. I'm not sure whether you should put it in for CnC1, for like Red Alert and CnC1, just because...
They didn't have them, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't there, and I don't really know how it would be quite implemented, but
I think
mean,
the best way to go
change the
about
way
it.
that all the maps work, right? Like none of the maps could just be copied over because of the way that the cliffs are done and that.
I reckon some of them could be remade with new clips, maybe, like sort of similar, but not exactly the same.
Yeah,
I would say just have like the engine itself. Build both of the games on the same engine, but rather depending on what game you want to play. Like let's say if you're gonna play Red Alert 1, it would just change the assets and all the rules and shit like that. Same thing with that. So, but then also have the assets available for like modders, for example. So, like, let's say if I wanted to make a fucking minigun or shoot nukes, could be able to do that.
Make a minigun and shoot nukes. I knew exactly where that was going.
You know, but like have all the assets and you're able to change it and just have it there. But I think it would be smart to have everything on one engine rather than splitting it.
Yes.
And then, like, let's say if I want to play TD,
I mean, I'm 100% sure that they're gonna build both games on the same engine anyway, because that's the only way that makes sense. I mean, one is basically a hacky version of the engine of the other anyway, so...
I think Red Alert 1 was just an improved CnC1 engine.
Yeah, exactly.
We'd have to ask Nair about that. He knows all about that shit.
Yeah, Charles in the chat here has an interesting point. What do you think about Archon mode?
It's fucking amazing, underrated.
That's the mode where you have like 3 people controlling one player, right?
Yes.
That mode sounds like a solid meme, but only for certain people.
I think it's amazing. I don't care what anyone says.
I mean, it does sound absolutely amazing, but like team communication is everything. But when you're controlling one player, that just gets a bit weird. But I'd love to see that actually.
That would be really cool, like some sort of team melee, like shared control kind of thing. That would be amazing. I would love that.
Doesn't StarCraft 1 also have Archon
Yes.
mode?
Yes,
It's
it has a,
basically just
so much to it, yeah.
two players share one base.
Yeah.
Yep. Exactly.
And you can
Like
like in StarCraft 1 you can even change what race you are, so you start with like 2 SCVs and 2 drones.
I'm actually not sure if that was intended, but
That sounds like a bug.
it probably. I think they just half-assed and threw it in there, but I would love some sort of Archon mode, or in this case like team melee. I think that would be fucking sick. I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Quite a good way to like help people into the game and have them learn it as well. It's like, okay, well, here's sort of what we're doing. Like, here's some units, go drive these around and shoot some stuff. I'll macro behind it. You just, focus on.
Well, I mean, that's all about team strategy at that point, but yeah.
Right.
Keaton also mentions transferring credits between players.
Oh yeah, that I'd really like that. Maybe.
Who did that? Who added that? Did someone add that into TS? I think someone did that. I don't remember who, but it was one of the games we have, and I remember
you'd sort of end
some
up
sort of credit transfer system.
You might end up with one of those weird like team macro things where one player basically just sits there, makes a shit ton of money, and does nothing else, and then feeds his partner.
Like, I think that'd be really cool. Like, have one player like, all right, I just want you to focus on econ and support.
It would also be
fuck
quite useful if like you die and you still have like 10k in your pocket because you suck at the game, and you're like, hey buddy, have 10k I didn't spend.
That'd be good. Yeah, that'd be good. I like the Archon mode idea. I actually didn't think about that. That's a good point.
Also, there's a cool feature in StarCraft 2 and older games like Empire Earth 2, where you can resume a game from a replay.
Yes.
You mean like a save game?
Did this as well.
So, doesn't StarCraft 2 also have that in multiplayer even? You can like start up a replay as a game and you just go through the replay.
I don't actually know how to do it, but I have seen people do it where you can like play a replay and then you can you and your friend can jump in and like play from a resumed point, which is really cool because it can be like, well, this person hit me with this attack. Like, was there a way that I could have held it? Like, I lost, but could it have been done? And then you can like have a go and try and sort of figure it out.
Hmm.
Right. That could also be like a scenario mode as well.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool. I dig it. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. Although I don't know shit about programming, so I don't know how you would implement that.
It's going to be ridiculously hard, but it's possible.
We shall see.
So, do you want to see structure and unit categories in the sidebar?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that'd make it easier to do stuff.
Yeah, I would like to see it.
I mean, being able to make the infantry and vehicles at the same time. Oh yes. The problem that plagues non-players everywhere. Help! I can't spam flamers and minigunners at the same. Tanks at the same time. It's just like, oh no, what will I do?
Yeah, well, it gets even trickier if you want to make like a Chem warrior and then some minigunners, right?
Yeah, it's like, oh, I gotta scroll back up.
Yeah. Good luck. You'll never be able to build those units together.
It just requires so much APM to be able to do that. So I would, some sort of tabs. That'd be badass.
That would also be aided by having an actual build queue, because then it gives you up the amount of things you want.
If they add like a Red Alert 2 style categories, I wouldn't like the ability to build structures and defenses at the same time.
We wouldn't necessarily have that copied. We'd just sort of have like, maybe just have buildings, infantry. If you ever played Emperor Battle for June, it'd probably look something like that.
Red Alert 1 on the PlayStation also has categories like that.
Yes.
You have buildings, you have infantry, and
tanks, air, super weapons, and subs. Yeah, I remember that. Oh, I spent many years playing that. Yeah, it probably looks something like that. That actually worked really well.
Which is pretty cool too, because they had to do that because you were playing on a controller. So
playing on a controller, it's so difficult.
It has some sort of weird thing where you have one category for Allied buildings and one category for Soviet buildings because they couldn't fit all in one category.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird niche idea, but it was really cool. But then you'd have that weird moment where if you sold your construction and you got the other one, it'd be like, oh, I have Allied and Soviet stuff, but then you only get like the non-unique crap. It's like, oh, alright then. A button that also had the shortcut button that let you build the last thing you built, which was really nice.
Red Alert 1.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, it was a good point that Tora brought up regarding like building structures and defenses at the same time. Like you obviously, unlike Red Alert 2, you really can't have it that you can make structures and defenses, because part of the balance around defenses is that you can't make them and make your infrastructure at the same time.
Yes.
Because honestly, the defenses, like particularly like things like the turret, are already strong enough if you just like build towards your enemy and build turrets on the front line. It's like if you could actually make the turrets and make like refineries at the same time, that's just terrifying.
Yep. Especially with like 10 con yards, it's like refinery turret, blah blah blah.
Yeah. Like Red Alert's bad enough for it as it is, and you can't even do it in that. Like.
Yeah, imagine Red Alert 1 with Red Alert 2 separation of defensive structures
No, stop.
Tesla coils while building power plants.
Imagine somebody trying to build service depots on walls at the same time. Just, oh god, help me.
Like Command & Conquer 3, before it was patched a few times, had that problem exacerbated because you had the cranes in addition to
Oh yeah,
the Red Alert 2
cranes used to build
separation.
defenses. Oh, yes, I remember
So
that.
like you have like 3 like sonic emitters being built at the same time, like one by one crawling their way to your base. It's like, oh shit.
Yep.
There has to be like an incentive for a player to be able to do that, though. Like, let's say, for example, you were to add that to Alert 1 or CnC 1, whatever. There would have to be some sort of incentive to control a certain position on the map, you know? Like, for example, like a positioning advantage.
But there should be an incentive to you to control a certain part of the map regardless of that.
Agreed,
Yeah,
agreed.
if you're capable of winning with no map control, guess I'm just playing P4 or something. It's like, what the fuck?
So I think it'd be interesting to have like some sort of like urgency built in. You know what I mean? Like, be like, oh
Yeah.
shit, if this dude controls, you know, the hilltop on the left side of the map, which controls a big portion of it, shit like that, then I'm gonna lose. Like, if I don't deal with this, I'm gonna lose.
That should just be like basic strategy though, rather than man, I can't spam defenses anymore. It's like, oh fuck.
Like, have a game within the game.
Yeah. Damn. CnC, but with like tactical positioning and shit.
I would
like,
love
oh my
that
god.
so much.
Yeah.
A game within the game. While
Plus then
Command &
you
Conquer
could make
PvP.
memes like, oh no, it's over. He has the high ground. It's like, well, damn it.
Well, have like the objective to kill your opponent, not that like fast, I guess. Like, slow the game down. That's the big thing.
Well, that's what
For me, at
Tiberian
least.
Dawn does better than Red Alert does. Sure, you still have your cheese rushes, but I mean, the game lasts a whole lot longer, usually.
And is actually kind of interesting, rather than just like heaps of tanks and then like, I have money, I'm gonna make like 20 MiGs now.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what sort of extra experiences would you like to see? So the first one I've got up here is like a fog of war, so a proper fog of war for the game rather than just Shroud. Wouldn't that be cool?
Fog of War is funny
Absolutely.
because I'm not used to strategy games that use Fog of War, and that's really weird for me to say because, because think about it, I grew up playing CnC. Most of my experience is like, everything is revealed. I'm like, oh god, what's this Fog of War? I have no idea what's going on, and everyone just kills me. It's like, right.
Jack will
That's
confirm map hacks.
Damn, he got me.
Fog of
Oh,
War is
yeah.
some sort of Blizzard heresy.
Exactly. It's like
I think
they tried
you know
to write
that-
it into Tiberian Sun, but it was such a heresy it crashed the game.
Definitely implement it, I would say. Have the option.
I think
If it's gonna be in the game though, I'd say like you'd have to redo the sight range on the units, because some of them can only see like 2 cells or whatever. And if that's like the constant reveal, that's literally like you just can't see at all what is
Anything.
going on. Yeah, that's
actually-
not bad if it's like completely reveals the area, but
Just
man
give
for a fog of
Humvees
war.
like sight range 10 and they'll become like super god tier. You'll be fine.
I actually tried to recreate this on Submarine Alert. So pretty much what you do is you increase the sight range on everything, and then have the shroud regrowth rate at max, and so you kind of have the same like system in that regard. But
I remember creating a single player level where I set the shroud regrowth to instant and then gave like 2 or 3 units super high vision range, and then suddenly those units became a whole lot more useful. It's like, that's actually really fun.
because I will add though, like I don't like the idea of once you scout it, you have that vision permanently. I personally don't really like that.
I'm so used to that feature. It's like, oh, what do you mean other games make me scout again? Bullshit, I want to be lazy.
Because then you could have like a unit be in a certain position on the map, and then that unit's giving you intel for the most part. You know.
Yeah.
You actually see this in StarCraft, where people put Zerglings in certain positions.
Yeah,
like,
StarCraft. Yeah, it's all about that. Probably why.
But I would love like a fog war system like that. Maybe like different options. Like maybe I want to have the map revealed but not revealed, if that makes sense. So pretty much you can actually see the terrain, but it's not scouted yet.
Yeah.
So like you know where shit is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe it doesn't affect like the way like flyers move, because you can't move flyers into the shroud. So I think like regarding that, you'd have to change it and allow flyers to be able to just kind of fly to any location. That's the one thing that would be.
Yeah, I'd like to see that improved as well. I mean, you could do it in Red Alert, but they always return back, I think. But yeah, in Tip Dawn, you have like fuck all mid-air control.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Oh, all right. Selecting air units.
Oh. Yeah,
Us?
so it'd be really cool if you could select air units and like attack air units.
Yeah.
I think you should be able to select them by like default. But for example, if you have air units like attacking while you're trying to micro shit on the ground, sometimes you will accidentally select air units. So
Well,
like maybe have like a toggle, like an option. I think would be perfect.
Or
But it doesn't happen
prioritize
very
ground
often.
units.
Yeah, that'd be a good point too. Another thing as well is like if you do like a big select like on your screen, like in your base, for example, I think this would actually help Red Alert 1 players. Have it prioritize attacking. Yeah, attack, or it would prioritize attacking units over like harvesters, for example.
You mean prioritize? Do not select harvesters, so I could just press select all army hotkey and A move across the map. What am I, some kind of Protoss?
I mean, sometimes you see people bring harvesters, and I know exactly what they did. I know you press it.
Yeah, I know you press that E key.
It's like, well, I'm gonna win this. He's pressing E. I'm gonna win this shit.
And then you get that one guy who's like deliberately sending his harvesters to tank damage, and is like, "Oh my god, you're a genius."
Freaking harvesters soaking up all the damage. Like, dude, you realize I could actually manually select my units and tell them what to attack?
Yes, but can you select all of them?
But can you select all of them?
It's like you haven't seen my final form.
Cool.
I
So
think
what
we
about
should-
like capturable income?
That comes under that comes under things like map control, basically. But I will. It's incentives to map control. But I will say, as someone who plays Mental Omega, which is famous for having oil derricks and other tech structures literally everywhere, you don't want to overdo it.
Right. Okay.
Like you need to put some incentive on a map, but filling it with like derricks and other random shit, it gets a bit stale.
I'm all for like map incentive stuff.
Yeah.
For sure.
And also,
Put it
in the case of RA2, don't let them build off oil derricks, please.
Interesting. So capturable, but don't allow it to be a building that you own.
Yeah,
You just
it's not like instant map control. You've actually got to hold the location.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? Because you can't build everywhere in CnC, so the idea of being able to like capture something somewhere else's for income is like, but then being able to build off of it is a bit ridiculous.
Yes.
Just have like a different structure that you're able to build off of. So have the structure itself have a different role.
It's like Tiberium always had like a specific expansion post on a couple maps. It's like where you can basically capture it, but only lets you build from it.
Or or instead of oil derricks and stuff, what about making ore mines and blossom trees grow resources faster?
Yeah, that's a pretty good point too, actually. The blossom trees and that spawn really, really slowly. They've changed it in Tiberian Sun, where it spawns like a full Tiberian patch rather than an empty Tiberian
Yeah,
patch.
it
I'm not sure
spawns like in full around it, but everything else disappears really fast.
I think maybe it should just like make
If
should maybe
they,
just make like a Tiberian patch on every single square around the bottom of it, but just like the level 1 thing. And if it spawns it again, it like they all go up a wee level. So it's like it spawns quite a bit of Tiberium around it, but over a period of time.
so I think that if blossom trees and ore mines, if they generate resources faster, there will be like important places to defend on the map.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's actually a good point.
Like maybe have like separate like Tiberium regrowth nodes do different shit. For example, like maybe there's one that has a faster regrowth speed. So you're like, oh shit, I should probably take control of that. You know?
That's basically like kind of like what ore and gems do, though, really, isn't it? In a similar way, but yeah, that's more like you just got to get there first. I guess.
Well, I think sort of like the idea of a super blossom tree or whatever the heck.
Yeah.
A blossom tree that just
The
spawns
super
more.
blossom tree,
Like
the god tree.
It's just a big fucking cancer tree. Like, oh my god.
It's like the big god tree, like something out of Avatar or whatever.
It's like a fucking, I don't even know. It's like a Zerg looking tree.
So in later CNC games, they also added the multi-engineer rule that you could turn on.
I feel like that should be in by default.
I personally don't think engineers are all that powerful, but everyone seems to disagree with me.
Yeah.
I don't think they're that big.
I don't know if it's the power of them. I think it's how, like, if you don't quite defend it properly,
Right.
yeah, the game's just over.
Right, exactly.
It's not
I
like, well, I
agree.
took a bit of
I
extra
agree
damage.
completely.
No, go away. Game's over. Get out of here.
If walls were easier to build, I don't think there would be as much of a problem.
That's true,
Sure.
actually. I never considered that, but yes.
Just attach an Apache to the Conyard and we should be okay.
Hang on, we're getting a bit
No,
off
I
topic
agree
here.
completely.
Hold on.
I agree completely, White, though. Like, I know exactly what you mean, where you're like, oh, just build one unit and the game's over. Like, that's fucking lame. I agree.
And it's particularly crappy for newer people. And, I mean, obviously, if you're... Is Lovehandles talking? I think maybe his volume's down. Not sure. Okay.
Oops.
Anyway,
What, Loves?
yeah.
I think he's just chilling.
I'm just enjoying the show. Go on.
All good. Yeah, there's just like, particularly for newer people, it's a bit boring, and then they're like, well, why do I want to play the game if it's just like engineer rushing and that sort of business?
If engineers are bad, what about commandos? Dun, dun, dun.
Kinda's
Well,
over.
they aren't that bad because buildings spawn infantry, but Tanya's are worse.
I don't know. I don't mind commandos because it's like, well, you've got to get them there at least, and they're kind of late game.
Yeah.
Good luck building against a 9-player. Oh, I got a commit. Oh, wait, he's got like 300 buggies. I don't know what I'm gonna do about this.
Yeah.
Nah, just crush, just roll on through with your APC and be like, haha. And is that
Damn, APCs. Who would have thought they would be useful? Wait,
it's
hang
time to rocket.
I know it's a
Yeah,
little bit
so speaking
unrelated,
of
but
like the commando and that as well, what about the idea that the commando blows up the infantry with the structure like Tanya does?
I mean, let's be honest. I think that should be a feature because if everyone's played that one CNC level where you have to C4 a bunch of SAM sites at the start and you have to reload a save about 5 times because 3 guys have popped out, it's like, yeah, okay.
in Middle Ear 1, you can actually control the rate at which that happens, I believe. I think you can actually control
I think Tanya just straight up kills everybody.
Yeah, so the C when you hit
I would have to
Tanya hit a building with C4 from Tanya, it never spawns infantry.
Never. I don't think you can even change that.
Yeah. Whereas in CNC1 it does, and all the infantry like shoots the commander in the face as he's like trying to escape.
Yeah.
Because the only other way around I could see it would be to make the C4 take longer to explode, so the commander could escape for a bit. But then it would also give the opportunity for a player to actually just sell the structure before C4 would go off. Like,
Yeah.
that structure's going to blow up anyway.
There is
I better just
actually a
sell it.
feature in RA2 where you can do that, but apparently if you sell a structure with that on it, it doesn't give you any money.
Oh.
which is kind of weird.
Still, fixes the problem.
We got a bug on our hands, mates.
Sweet. Cool. What about remappable hotkeys?
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Yay! So we already have that in CnCNet, but that'd be really awesome to see that outside of.
Remappable hotkeys should be like a required feature for every RTS game.
Yeah.
Like, end of discussion.
And it'd be good to see the feature in game though. So like you just go into a menu and you can just change it in there rather than having it run like an options thing outside of the game and blah 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 and trying to work out what everything does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be best to have like a UI rather than have to shift through a bunch of text files in the directory. Not many people know too much about that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely have some sort of UI in game.
Cool. And what about extra hotkeys? So what about like something that can maybe select all your harvesters or select all units other than harvesters? So like an army hot.
Tiberian Sun did this with T. I liked it.
Did Tiberian Sun do that? I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you like select a disc thrower and you press T, it selects all your disc throwers on your screen.
Oh right, yeah. That's a feature in RA2 as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think the select everything except harvesters on the screen button would be kind of cute.
It'd be good maybe to have another one that's like select all unit type as well. Like there's no way to do that in CnC.
Yes.
So,
also,
yeah, I think...
adding being able to, what is it? So like let's say if I have a group, right? And I want to shift add, you kind of have to do like shift control. You have to do a bunch of shit, right? So like let's say if I want to quickly add like a selection to what I have already, like I want to be able to hold on shift and then be able to box it to add it. So it's like a little micro thing for sure.
Yeah.
I think I wrote
so maybe definitely have a look at how like you add units to groups and stuff. What about having structures on control groups? I feel like that's helpful for like sniping engineers and stuff.
Currently there's no point at the moment, but like let's say if you were to have like a rally point, there would probably be a reason to do that.
Well, it would be useful for turrets.
Yeah,
that
it would be useful for defense structures.
So maybe, because at the moment, all you really need is a camera hotkey to be able to switch between bases, or even the minimap even. But being able to control group like turrets and shit like that, yeah, that would be beneficial. But your army's a little bit more important, so I'd probably, I don't know, put it farther down on the hotkey range, probably like 890, shit like that.
Yeah.
That's a good point, though.
Although you could add it to, because you can add like units and structures together, and then you can still drive the units around. And it just means that, like, if you're protecting, like, a, I don't know, like a key structure and you're doing a defensive thing, you can deselect your army, but then you'd be able to just, like, tap one again and it would select, like, your army and the structures at the same time, so you could continue to snipe down units.
I guess, yeah.
Otherwise, you have to select the army, and then you have to also shift-click the defense structures, and then, you know, if that's what you needed to do.
Yeah.
So I think that that'd be helpful, and I feel like it'd be easy to add into the game. Just allow structures to be hotkey. That's what you need to do.
Yep.
And then what about also a button to make troops go prone?
Well,
That would have actually affected the balance of the game, but it's bad micro control.
it would. That's kind of like a special ability in a way, I guess. But I mean, I never actually ever considered this because most of the time infantry tend to die before that actually comes into effect.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
They're definitely larger splash damages and stuff, but otherwise, like the ability to make them go.
It's honestly kind of like how GIs in Red Alert 2 work, because it's kind of like, oh, if you deploy, now you're not moving, but you're more likely to do some damage or not die or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
Bit of a trade-off there.
Cool. What about like more info on units when they're selected? So like maybe like showing their hit points as an actual number. So like having a, do you know what I mean? Like a readout for units when they're selected.
That's not necessary, but would be interesting.
Too much info with how many units are going on. That'd be very cluttered.
I think the health bar system we have at the moment works like perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
Charles in chat also asks about how about one hotkey for every building and unit on the sidebar?
That's kind of like how OpenRA works, isn't it? I
Yeah,
actually
StarCraft in a
my
way.
favorite
Oh,
method
yeah.
would be having so you can queue building. I mean, if you have a sidebar like this, you could queue buildings like as normal, but then you have a hotkey that allows you to place them down wherever you want. Because that's how RA2 works. So you have the hotkey. You don't have a hotkey to build them, but you have a hotkey to place whatever's in that section down.
Right. So it's just like the thing to deploy the actual structure
Yeah.
once you built it.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be helpful. At the moment, you actually have to click on the icon, so you can't even move the sidebar to a new location. You actually have to.
You have to
Even though
actually
it's
go
like-
back and pick. Yeah.
You have to pick out that one icon. Yeah, even though it's like there's no other reason I'd be clicking over here.
Would it be interesting to have a detachable sidebar you can place wherever you want?
But then would it be a sidebar? It'd just be a bar.
It would be a sidebar if you set it on the side.
Yeah, but it's not a sidebar anymore then, isn't it? Ah,
Well,
my
it's
brain.
on the side. It's a sidebar.
So maybe you could have like a sidebar or a blind bar.
Yeah,
or
but
a top bar.
you didn't need to get that guy that places it like right in the middle of the screen. It's just like, what are you doing?
I'm just gonna play with no monitor.
Exactly. My entire screen is the sidebar. I am now playing blind.
Like, think of it like the Windows taskbar. You can place it wherever you like.
That'd be good though to have hotkeys to build specific units, shit like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would definitely.
So,
add
yeah, maybe more macro hotkeys. That would be. I don't think anyone would be against that.
You
No,
could basically just steal the CNC free UI, right? That's kind of how that
Probably,
works.
yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So resolution. So that's one that we were sort of talking about before. Maybe we can go into it more in a second, but
Jacko brought up a really good point, I believe, where it's kind of like no matter what resolution you're at.
There should
Slot-
be
slot
a fixed. There should be a fixed field of view. Honestly, it will fix all like resolution problems and people arguing about vision and whatnot.
yeah.
Like
Yeah,
competitive and casual, it makes no difference to casual players because they don't care, and it makes a better difference for competitive players because there's no unfair advantage.
Yeah. I agree.
Although I would argue if you're at a higher resolution, it's harder to micro and click on shit unless you're a fucking Ferret. But if you're at like a lower resolution,
Unless you're you, right?
If you're at a lower resolution,
So if we're one
it's
of the
easier.
7 billion people that are
Trade-offs.
you, it's an improvement or whatever. So, okay, I see where this is going.
Okay.
We're making like improvements for an absolute tiny number of people. Okay, I see.
Yeah, well, that's been the argument against it. It's like, oh well, you could micro things better if you play on a lower resolution. It's like, yeah, but the other person can see the whole map, so like.
Yeah,
And it's
I
easier
have to
access
admit,
what to do.
yeah, I have to admit, I am guilty of this. When I play, it's like, oh, I could just see the entire fucking map. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah, the viewport size and zoom should be the same for every player, as much as possible, at least, considering different aspect ratios.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
But how are we gonna enjoy all the 4K resolution and shit like that now? I want to see the whole map in 4K. What about me, Jack? I'm kidding. But I think
So
it's probably made
make
for like
the new graphics
7.
really, really sweet, so that everything looks really awesome, even though we can only see like 2 refineries on the screen.
Do it in fucking MS-DOS resolution. 320 by 200 in 4K. Sick.
Oh my god, that would be the worst.
You're like, now I can really see these textures.
How about this one, guys? When you leave a match, a multiplayer match, it actually just surrenders your team.
That
Rather
should
than
be
all of your
default.
stuff. Rather than all of your stuff just like being suddenly controlled by the computer in a really bad way.
I mean,
And
the only
people seem
difference to
to
that
go
is
there.
if you're in a team game, it maybe could be given to your allies. I'm not sure about that one, to be honest. I know RA3 did that, but other
Right,
games
I-
don't know.
Yeah, I think it should just blow your base. Like now.
Nah, it's just like
definitely split for sure.
like you've
wow.
definitely RQ'd. You might as well make your base RQ as well.
I think did Funky who implemented that in RE1? Was
Yes,
it Funky?
well, someone
Yeah.
did it. I just know it's in the CnCNet version.
Yeah,
I
okay. Definitely we should have like be able to set up automatic allies for a match if people want to start like a custom 2v2 game. you should be able to like pick who your teammates are.
I'd love that. The fact that you can actually pick your teammate would be a massive improvement as well.
And probably your start positions as well.
Yep.
That'd be pretty helpful. So that's something that we don't currently have in CnCNet. It'd be really good to see all of that implemented into it. Really simple stuff. Replay system, which we already talked about.
Yes.
I think everyone
Can
probably
I
want
can
that.
I
As
can I
someone
add to the
who-
spawn stuff real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they're looking for like inspiration, definitely getting I think Rampa's client. He did all that. I'm pretty sure in Beta Commander. They did a really good job on the client for Red Alert 2 and DTA things like that. And you can actually select your spawns, things of that nature. So, but yeah, carry on.
Sweet. Yep, we definitely would like a replay system. We talked about that before.
I mean, the thing about a replay system is it allows people to create content. Now, I don't know if you guys know this, but I think it's last year I basically commentated live on a Mental Omega tournament for 2v2s, and I had a blast of a time. And it's like, you know, if we had more content like that, I think we could get more people into the game rather than just only being able to see gameplay.
So I need to stop being lazy and do more commentaries?
Yeah, sure. But I mean, doing commentaries at Tiptoe is also really difficult because you can't pick spawns, you can't pick teams, and you have to resign at the start, and spawns are completely random. So it's like, well, great.
And then you also can't see things like their resources. You can't see what they're building, etc.
Yeah,
so
it's literally you just have a view of the map, and you have to guess how everyone's doing.
And you might as well just increase like player slot stuff. So like maybe I want to have a fucking 16-player free for all.
Yeah, 16 player slots, and then like for a 4-player map is absolutely perfect. Because
larger maps would be nice.
Everyone's played that keep off the grass game with 8 players. It's a blast.
10 versus 10 on mega maps that are 4 times the size of a Red Alert 1 mega map.
Basically, just mammoth tanks only then.
Cool. And obviously it's spectator mode, but I'd say like if you're going to have a ladder, obviously you can't have someone spectating your ladder matches.
Like ladder by default needs a replay system, I think.
Yeah, but don't the results just get sent to the server? Or how does that work?
Well, they will be, but I mean, there are things that could often happen in ladder games that you only can explain with replays.
Just like, dude, this guy was cheating. Like, I just like look at the replay. Like, no, you just suck. You wrecked you. All right, GG.
Cool. So talking about like different game modes, obviously we want to bring back a ladder for it, and one of the biggest parts to making a ladder work is making sure that we actually have decent maps. This is something I've been trying to work on for quite a while with the community. To minor effect. So in Korea, the community basically took on the challenge of making more fairer maps for StarCraft, and eventually got it to the point where even though they had 3 races that were balanced totally differently, they actually managed to make maps that were very fair between all 3 races, to the point that obviously their competitive community has grown to just an unbelievable size.
Yeah.
So we definitely want to have proper maps for it. Now I've sent the thread that I made on map making to the team, to the Petroglyph, and they did receive it. They got a little reply. They were like, "Yep, cool. This will be helpful." So hopefully they will actually use that. And I would say if we wanted to have maps for a ladder, it's really important to have a variety of maps. So the way it's currently done on the Red Alert ladder, they just allow voting, which sounds fair on the surface, but the more you think about it, the more it's actually quite limiting, because it means that, let's say you have 60 or 70% of the player base likes to play in a certain way, well, they're all going to pick maps that are good for that play style, which means the other 40 or 30% of players are kind of pushed out. Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, ladder map pools are a bit weird like that, because it's like, well, I mean, your options are kind of like, sometimes they can be quite good and sometimes they can be quite constrained, so you don't really know what you can pick. But I think that In the art of a proper 1v1 between two competitive players, picking the right map that's good for you or picking a map that's really bad for them should be part of the strategy. That's why map ban systems exist in tournaments.
Yeah. Yeah. So have a variety of maps in the pool is what I'm sort of getting at.
Yes.
So one of the systems that they came up with for CnC for StarCraft 2 was the EARC system, which is there's basically like two factors in it. So there's aggressive versus economic, and there's roaming versus constricting. So the aggressive versus economic is like how stable you are at the start of the game. So if there's like a good wall around your base and some resources nearby, it's like, yeah, that's like more economic. But if it's more like open and there's like short rush distances in that, then it's like, okay, that's a more aggressive map. And then moving on from that, there's roaming versus constricting. So is the rest of the map like quite open and you can just move around easy, or is it like a bunch of snaking paths, right?
Yes.
And so you could have something where it could be aggressive, but it could also be constricting. So it's like a bunch of snaking paths, but it's also like a short rush distance, and there's lots of space around the base for people to harass your base at the start of the game. Or it could be like the opposite of that, or any of the other combinations of those. And I think that, yeah, so someone's posted it up there in the little thing with Ferret. Yeah, Ferret's got it there on the screen. So I think we can implement a system like that for CnC, or that there should be. So there's like 9 different types of maps, basically. And if you have that, and then you say you have a veto system, each person can veto like 3 maps. So then there's another 3. So let's say someone doesn't like any of the aggressive maps, so they just veto all the aggressive ones. Someone else doesn't like something like constricting, so they just veto all those. It's like, hey, there's another 3 maps then that
you've got to be able to get good at all types of map if you want to play properly, basically.
Yeah, or at least like good at a reasonable variety of them, like not just one type.
Yeah.
But if you do completely suck on a certain type, you can at least
that should be a point for improvement rather than just get good.
You just gotta get good, yeah. Just get good.
That's what ladders are for.
That's a good thing
yeah.
too. It's like,
but I think that's the fairest way to do it, right? Because like intuitively, it sounds like it'd be fairer to have like a voting system or whatever, where people just pick whatever the most popular maps are. But that's actually not. It's actually not a good way to do it. You actually just want a variety system, and then let people veto out anything that they really don't like. And then it also means you can have a standard to it, so like not having to be all over the map and that type of business. Actually have maps look nice.
Please.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like community maps. I think that community maps can be absolutely a part of the ladder, and you can have
I know that StarCraft 2 has like a community voted map system that are then checked by like pro players and stuff. They're like, oh, is this map fun to play on? Is this map good or whatever? And then there'll be sort of like contests and stuff to change the map pool every so often. Because, well, I mean, let's be honest, having the same 10 maps for like 3 years, it gets really boring.
Yeah, Team Liquid does that stuff, I believe.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah, so they rotate their map pool like every season. So that's like, I don't know how many. Does they do it 4 times a year?
Something like that.
I'm not sure.
But they change it. But they don't change all of the maps. They'll change like half of the maps or whatever, and then they'll slowly cycle them out, which I think is good because it gives you an amount of time to get used to the maps and actually learn them and stuff, and then also push them out. That's another good point. Because at the moment, if you wanted to challenge someone in a game with CnC, you kind of have no idea what map you would really be playing on.
Yeah.
No standard to it, so no one knows what you're supposed to be practicing on. You just kind of figure it out as you go along. By having like a bunch of maps which are like, these are the current competitive maps, it's like, okay, you at least know like vaguely the maps that you should be practicing on if you wanted to like challenge someone else, or obviously if you're playing on the ladder, those would be the ladder maps.
The way that the map is designed really dictates how the game is actually played.
Yes.
Yeah.
I get that.
Absolutely. That's something that I think a lot of the newer players sort of don't really understand, is that actually a lot of the balance of the game and the strategies of the game is not like what team you're playing as or whatever. It's just the map. It's like whatever map you're on.
I mean,
actually.
arguably in StarCraft, this is obviously a lot harder because you have 3 races to account for and the different interactions between all 3 sets. But in here, we only have 2, so it's like, well, you only actually have 3 sets of things to consider. Like, oh, could this matchup be boring, or could this one be boring? It's like there's only 3 you can think about, so it's like, oh, actually, isn't so bad.
Yeah, it is actually a lot easier to design as a result of that as well. Yeah. So yeah, totally. Definitely want that. The other thing that StarCraft 2 went through, which was a big problem for it, was they pushed the competitive side of it a lot. I got very excited about esports.
Way too much. That's why it died so
And
fast.
eventually it kind of pushed all the casual players out, and they lost a lot of their player base from what was, you know, honestly a very well-developed game. And there was no reason that that needed to happen, but they just kind of thought that it'd be okay and people would just eventually figure it out. But people just got frustrated and left. Which is not to say that the competitive game of StarCraft is bad, but it's just that that type of competition isn't for everyone.
Yes.
So,
Casual mode and a competitive mode, definitely. That, yeah. I feel
cool.
like that
So
should be a
obviously, like,
standard.
we would like to see like a proper ladder for it, but we also want to make sure that we still have like, so for example on CnCNet, one of the ways in which people play more casually is that they play big free-for-all games, and we definitely want to see that still implemented into the game. That's a big way that people can be as a community as well, like get to know people. You play a big match with a bunch of people, you know.
You basically just meme about if you want. There's no reason not
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
Because of
So you want to be able to set up custom
party.
games and big FFAs, and I actually really like CnC's lobby. So this is something that StarCraft 2 is actually still not getting right, is that all those games are like tucked away. The UI for it's quite bad. It's
the match setup system in StarCraft I find absolute nightmare. It's just like, oh, you can only you host the map and then you can't change the map when you get in it. It's like, oh, right, okay then.
Yeah.
It should actually be flipped around where the casual should be the main focus rather than the competitive, because I guarantee you 95% of the people that are going to play this aren't playing for competitive nature.
I would love to see them produce a game that is actually esports ready though. That would be really fun.
Yeah.
Well, technically any game can be esports ready. Actually, any game can be, but
I mean, technically, but you can do a better job of it. Like we're talking about replay systems and spectating and all that sort of business. It's like, well, that's pretty damn important if you actually want to like push the esports side of it and the competitive side of it.
Yeah.
For sure.
You just want people to be coming back to the game.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So we want people to be like comfortable coming into it. So we want to make sure that the community members that we have at the moment are pretty happy and can still like play on whatever maps they want to play on. And we want to make sure that the ladder is like a robust place for competition. So it's like it's quite different and people can play both, but people will probably go more one way than the other. One of the things that StarCraft 2 actually has gotten right is they created co-op mode. They originally called it something like Allied Commanders. And the community kind of blew it off at the start because they ran it alongside Archon mode when they first created it. And everyone was like, Archon mode is going to be the next big thing. But actually now more people play co-op than any other mode. So
well,
more
co-op mode is a special kind of thing because that's like basically like single player content, but you can play it with a friend.
Yeah,
I think
so it's like a mission. You have really crazy abilities and stuff as well. So you can have like more niche teams that you play as, and then they just like release more maps and stuff for it and more different like commanders and different stuff that you can play as, and you and a friend play like a mission type scenario. I think that'd be really cool for CnC, and you could have like you could have different commanders for that. So there was something a little bit like that for 0 Hour, where they had like a generals mode, and it was like you could play as all sorts of weird generals. Like there was like an air general and a laser general.
The generals are kind of like sub-factions in a way, but I don't think that's really something that CnC is here to offer unless that's for single player only.
StarCraft 2 just implemented like abilities and stuff like that for the actual commander itself, but it's for like General 0 Hour. It's literally just a sub-faction. But
I think that'd be cool if you could have like have a co-op mode that's like that. So you might have like the air GDI generals, and like he has the airstrikes, and then like there's a laser nod person and da da da. And then you can just like team up with your friend and you go and like beat up an AI or whatever. It's
Yeah.
like a mission.
I think that'd be
You know?
pretty sick.
I think that'd be pretty cool for people to play, and they means you can like enjoy the game. It's something that would be obviously pretty new to the game, and it helps you to learn like basic RTS stuff as well. So if you wanted to go competitive later on, then you could actually do that without it being like too daunting right away. Plus, it's something that's new, so that's fun. Playing with your friends is fun.
Yep.
Agreed.
So definitely a bit of that. So RTS in modern times eventually evolved into what we know as MOBAs.
Yes.
Thanks, Warcraft 3.
And this was sort of an idea that I came up with quite a few years back that I thought would be really cool if it was like the idea you'd have like a pre-spawned map with like a base, like a pre-spawned base on it, and you maybe have like 10 people playing, so like 5 people to a team, and each person just controls like one infantry piece, and you've got like a harvester going backwards and forwards collecting money for the team, and then you can each like build like a little vehicle or whatever for yourself, and you start to build a composition, and you and your friend, or you and your friends on your team trying to, you know, take out the other team. So it's like everyone's just controlling like one unit. So it's sort of like Renegade. Sort of like Renegade, but like top down.
Kinda.
Renegade. Oh my god, I wish we need a Battlefield type Renegade. That's what we need.
Yeah.
Oh,
Or
we're going very
back to
far off
Arma
topic
3.
now.
I know, but an Arma 3 type, like back to mode for CnC would be literally like the most badass thing ever. You have one person who's the commander who happens to build the base and shit like that, and then all the other players are pretty much using that. For example, I'm not sure if you've ever played back to on Arma 3, but if you were to literally strip that idea and throw it into Command and Conquer, like that'd be sick.
I mean, I played a Path Beyond, which is kind of somewhere in between that.
But in Bekti, one player who's the commander, he's actually constructing the base and choosing locations, shit like that. And you actually
Have
go
you
to
ever
capture
played
islands and stuff.
Natural Selection?
I haven't.
It's similar to that, where basically you had a team of players, but you'd have one player that's the commander and basically builds the base and tells players what to do.
Natural selection.
Interesting.
It's quite an old
Yeah,
game. It's
I
like
would say,
7 or 8
the-
years old now.
I had actually heard of the game. I will say, like, the Tiberium universe is a really cool lore, and I will say that the franchise has been pretty mishandled in a sense that, like, they kept sort of making more dumbed down games for it. Like, they dumbed down DNC4, like they took a lot out of it, and then particularly like with like the mobile stuff that they've made. It's like I can't understand why you'd choose to use the Tiberian universe for that, when surely it lends itself better to almost something like a civilization type game or something like that. If you wanted to like really branch out and do something different with it, surely it would, you know, given how much depth there is in the lore, like this idea that there's like an ecological disaster happening in the middle of this weird war, and there's new technologies being invented. Like that's the type of thing that you could actually make into several different types of games. But people need to know the lore of the game in order to get into it. So I don't understand why you'd create something where, where you're sort of taking the lore out of the game and saying like, oh, I'm just trying to fit it into this little mobile game or whatever.
Well, I feel like the story is always a big fragment of the game, though. It's kind of like one of the most important parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, you know, you get players that are all like, oh, I want to know the lore and I want to know everything, and it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, that's fair enough. And you get the players like multiplayer only, it's like, okay, so whatever. But to really enjoy the game, to like have single player content, you have to have the atmosphere and the story to go with it.
It would be interesting to have a grand strategy game in the Tiberium universe. You start at like the around the first Tiberium War, and you like see how all the countries and stuff align themselves between Nod and GDI, and you play like
you
as
mean
a
like
country.
like a Hearts of Iron kind of game?
Yeah. You play as a country, and you like see how like the war develops and which countries comes under GDI influence and which country comes under Nod influence, and how that affects like the countries and events relating to the spread of Tiberium and technologies on how to harvest it. And and then you can just go forward into the different eras.
There's a game on Steam called Foxhole that does this perfectly. Exactly what you're talking about. Pretty much you choose a faction at the start of the war, and then yeah, you kind of go at it, and then each team kind of controls, like once one faction like wins a certain map, like for example, they control that specific part of the map.
So kind of like the global conquest mode, but better.
Exactly. If you're ever interested in that kind of stuff, check out Foxhole. They actually replicate that like perfectly.
It would be like really cool to play as, like, for example, if you play as well, let's say Poland, and you're under Nod influence, and you like click on another country, and you're like, how do I like go to war with this country, and you like use like Nod propaganda to like smear the country and stuff like that.
Commander, we got 300 buggies rolling in, over.
They slaughtered women and children, over.
So copy, over.
Yeah.
So it basically becomes like you know in Tiberian Dawn, where like Nod uses like propaganda to try to steer the public, and that would be something you would actually be responsible for doing in like a grand strategy game.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's
really
that's
cool.
what I mean. Like the lore of the game is so rich, to sort of throw out the lore for just making like a mobile game or something seems just silly. Like there's so much you can do with this franchise that it's kind of bizarre that they took the direction that they did with it. I mean, Renegade kind of tried to explore
Renegade
some
has
of this
so
stuff
much
a little
untapped
more in
potential.
depth, but it wasn't really done that well. Renegade had a lot of
Renegade has so much fucking potential.
yeah.
It really does.
So that needs to be. I mean, even if you had like a game like more like Ghost Recon or something that was just set in the CnC universe, like you and your friends just like a first-person shooter. Like you and your friends just play as like a team of guys. One's a sniper, one's a rocket dude, one's a whatever, and you have to go and you're an elite team and you go and like wipe out some stuff like that.
Make sure someone's piloting the buggy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could just have 4 buggy pilots, right?
Everyone's just in a buggy. Done.
Player 1 is in a buggy. Player 2 is in a buggy. Player 3 is in a buggy. Player 4 is in a buggy. Weapons factory destroyed. Mission accomplished.
Now we got some accurate Tiberian Dawn action.
Oh yeah.
Just spawn as an engineer and just go into an APC and like mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished.
But yeah, no, I do think a mobile type game could work really well. Like you could do all sorts of stuff. Like you could have little how do you say, little fortresses or whatever that would be like guarding crates. So like as the game would go around, you might not attack the enemy right away. Like they might
The
have
neutral
like,
enemies guarding my crate. God damn it.
Yeah, exactly.
You go through all this effort to secure the crate, and then it's just it's. I thought you were gonna say it's a nuke. Then I'm like, oh, like it's just one of those crates that explodes. It's just like, oh, all right.
Just takes all, just re-shrouds the map.
Yep. My favorite. I mean, who remembers that crate that used to be in the game where if you got it, the game crashed?
Oh, really?
Like there was a crate, like it was an explosion crate, but sometimes if you got it, the game crashed. So like people used to run games with crates, and then mysteriously you'd get an explosion crate, and like 2 of the players crashed, and it's just like, that's not good.
That's the game crash crate. It's the best.
Yeah, it was the only way to win a game of crates is not to play.
But yeah, obviously if you did that, the crate would actually have to be like balanced for that type of mode. But yeah.
Crates
and the other thing is like lots of people are enjoying battle royale games, and there actually was like a battle royale CnC. It was called Soul Survivor.
Unfortunately, it was not the Soul Survivor.
It was it wasn't.
It did not survive.
I knew
Soul Survivor was the world's first MOBA battle royale game. if you released it now, it would explode in popularity instantly.
Hmm.
It's
So
both
feel-
MOBA and Battle Royale.
The most amusing part of this entire discussion is that I think we've already passed like the era of battle royales. Like, sure, Apex Legends is popular, but there's like 4 different clones of the same kind of game now. And it's like, well, it's getting kind of stale.
We need to find the next new thing.
Renegade.
It's called real-time strategy.
Just re-release Command and Conquer as the next new thing. Done.
Well, I mean,
If
people
they
do like
wanted
to
to,
play
they
the
could bring
free-for-all
back
matches for sure. And if you had like a MOBA type mode like that, you could have a giant map where you could have like 10 teams of people. So 10 teams of like 5 people are all running around trying to like kill off these little bases to get their power-ups to make their team win. So you could have something that's that crazy, you know?
CnC.
And, a mode like that could be, that'd be pretty
CnC
cool. Like
Quake.
50 people playing CNC, but everyone's only controlling like one unit. But you're all on little teams, and you're
Wouldn't
trying
that
to
basically be like PlanetSide though?
Oh,
You ever
Planetside
play
was so
PlanetSide?
much fun. Yes.
PlanetSide is a weird ass game. If I was better at first-person shooters, I probably would play that game a lot more.
Planetside was so much fun when there was a good population in that game. It was Renegade on crack. I'm telling you, like these MMO FPSs.
Yeah,
so much
it kind of was.
Planetside was fun, but I think there's not as many players on it now because the dev team sucks apparently. That's what I've heard at least.
I remember when I first played PlanetSide 2 and I was thinking, oh, this game is amazing! That FPS though.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
college friends
so
were
bad.
like, "Hey, we played PlanetSide." I'm like, what's that? Oh, it's big like MMO, like first-person shooter, like tactical and teams and shit. It's like, oh, seems cool. Played it. It sucked, but it was fun.
Planetside
Yeah.
was super fun.
Yeah, I think stuff like that for modern day is good. I mean, it's really getting back to the roots of what CNC was about, which was like creating the new latest and greatest, and like being able to push something out with. I mean, at the time, it was like to be able to play with 2 people on the internet was like, wow, like a couple
Yeah.
of people can play this game. But like to just give that to people now and be like, look, you and your friend can play this game. People are like, you don't say. So I think like trying to create new game modes where you can actually have like 50 people playing some sort of a CNC mode. Like,
Yeah.
I think that'd be dope. I think it'd be cool. And I think people would get into it and like maybe get into the lore of the game, and you can actually start to relaunch the franchise. Because as it stands, like the franchise has been really poorly treated, and you need something like that to actually bring people into the game again.
Yeah.
If they were to, I would say just rehash Renegade.
Yeah, I would like to see a total
this day and age.
redo of Renegade.
Because I know the EA executives are like, well, RTS games right now aren't that great, stuff like that, blah blah blah. There's not as many people playing it, obviously, but if they were to redo Renegade, I guarantee it would do just fine.
Yeah.
Especially with all this battle royale shit, and everyone's like, it's like the new COD these days. It's a new fad.
Well, Renegade was like a first-person MOBA. You know?
It was
I
pretty
guess.
similar.
Yeah.
It just wasn't executed
Quite MOBA in that way. You have like a couple of teams, and you each have like a base, and you're trying to manage some resources with your base.
It was a very bare bones one, but yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the thing is that Renegade had a lot of potential. It's like Ferret was saying, like on multiple levels, like as a multiplayer MOBA, it had a lot of potential, but also as a story-driven game, like exploring the lore of Command and Conquer and seeing it from a first-person eye view rather than just like you're a general or a commander or whatever in war, like actually seeing it through the eyes of someone running around. Like that's a pretty cool idea if you do it right, for sure.
I stayed up so late playing that game back when it came out. Oh my god. When did that game even come out? 2001 or something like that?
Yeah,
Something
pretty old
like
game.
that, yeah.
Oh my god, it was so good. I would literally stay up all night. Me and my brother would switch off. We'd give an hour time. We'd play for an hour and then we'd switch.
Those
We
are the
literally
best games, though. Those are the games that like make you forget that you've been up for 5 hours and it's actually 3 in the morning and you've got school in the morning. It's like, oh god, help me.
There's like little Gavin, like, oh shit, I gotta go to kindergarten. So when I get back, though, I'm getting back on Renegade. That's pretty much how it was.
Yep.
Renegade was the shit.
Never really got into. Oop, never really got into Renegade. Anyway, we've gone very far off topic here.
No, we've managed to stay pretty on mode because we're actually right down to the balance part of it now. So this is the fourth part of our fourth topic for today, the final one.
Oh goody.
So
I've been out of the loop for this, so I know Lovehandles has a bunch to talk about for this for sure.
yeah, so the one thing I wanted to just talk a little bit about first is just like the current meta of the game, so that anyone who's listening to this who's like doesn't understand at all how the game is played has a little bit of an idea. So largely it's like GDI has tanks and grenadiers, and Nod uses bikes and buggies. That's
I still advocate for the tank RT mix. It's so much more fun and so much more satisfying when your opponent rage quits to it.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. We wanna make
That's a
stuff
very
more viable.
unassuring. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because like just the other day, I spoke with a random person on Facebook. I joined like some random CnC group, and I know we were talking about the remaster, and he was like, "So they should totally give Nod like heavy tanks because
Why?
like GDI tanks are totally too good." And
Have they not used bikes before?
There has to be some identity to each faction.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem
The
is
fact that Dot doesn't have a heavy tank is what makes them cool.
yeah, exactly. It's like the whole point with Nod is that they only have like lighter vehicles. Everything's dropped off by an aeroplane, right? So
Homie, they got tanks that are invisible.
Yeah.
What do you need a heavy tank for? Dude, they're
What's that?
invisible. They're the sickest tank ever.
Have you
I've done
ever
30s.
become that micro god that picks off mammoth tanks with stealth tanks because they're open? Like nobody does that. Literally
fun trick.
nobody.
Take 2 stealth tanks and have them chill by harvesters and just snipe them off because they never check their base sometimes when they're fighting. It's like you're like in the middle of a fight and they just go back. They're like, dude, where are all my harvesters? You've been attacked.
pretty good.
To be fair, the things I mostly see stealth tanks used for is making conyards disappear, but the logic is still the same.
Yeah. No, for sure. So yeah, so I think like my point on saying like Nod largely just uses its light vehicles, uses bike, buggy, and GDI's like tanks and infantry, is that a lot of people don't sort of know what the metagame is because a lot of people aren't actually playing, and there's a lot of people sort of jumping up and saying like, here's what you should change about the game. Like the other thing this person said was like, well, the mammoth tanks are obviously just too good. It's like you usually just use medium tanks. You really only use mammoth tanks. It's like a tech choice for anti-air and maybe a little bit of like
I don't know. Mammoth tanks are pretty good if you get to late game.
Oh,
Like,
sure.
Because
If you have enough of them, they're pretty...
they laugh at bikes if you get enough of them, and it's
Yeah.
not very many required for critical mass either.
If you let them
Yeah.
get a lot of mammoth tanks,
You might as well just
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I don't know if you are kidding though. I think you're kind of right.
No, I shh.
I mean, like the problem. Okay, the problem with the GDI meta is I'm staring at their sidebar right now. I built my weapons factory. I could build 3 things. That's not a harvester. I could build a medium tank, which is like God. I could build a Humvee, which is like okay, I could kill like that one lone flamer, but if they have 2 flamers, I might as well just die. And then I have APCs, which take forever to load and are only used for cheesing. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But, like, there's nothing wrong with medium tanks being good. It's more that the other units don't have any other use other than cheeses or just weird strats that don't work.
That comes down to a balance thing for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think
Cool.
making Humvees and APCs more viable. I mean, the fact that we can't like just load blobs of units into APCs makes them a bit bad. That's a game engine problem. We can't fix that. But Humvees could be made usable for sure. It's just
If you make 2 refineries and then a war factory, and then 5 Humvees, you can kill the other player's war factory for free every game.
and then you just die to like 2 medium tanks. It's like shit. Anyway,
it's a fun
the point is that I mean, it's also a case that what are Humvees usable for in GDI versus GDI, other than sniping off weapons factories? Because it's not like everything can do that. Whereas if you use them against like someone playing or not, it's like, well, okay, they're useful for sniping, like herding off bikes and buggies and stuff, and then they're also useful for sniping off flamers because flamers are terrifying. But you know, it's all about limited use versus either matchup, which is kind of how unit balancing works. It's like, okay,
They're only good for like a specific time frame, and then after that, there's no point in making them.
Yeah. Although that's maybe not too bad a thing. Like if you have a unit which is more useful early on and you transition out of it. I don't have too much of a problem with units being like that in after years. But yeah, like GDI definitely needs to get some artillery in there, which we'll talk about in just a minute.
good old
Flame
ML.
tanks are kind of the same way, where you just
So
have
the other thing, of course, is that nod units actually build faster relative to their cost. It's different, but it actually kind of evens out because GDI can reinforce using its infantry. So it's actually okay.
Again, I'm going to diss every single person that says making units out of the hand and nod is pointless. I mean, sure, you have bigger numbers, so infantry effects are numbs, but you have flamethrowers, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you force them to shoot, their range is actually farther as well.
Yeah.
You could literally just build 1 or 2 flamers against a group of friends, and you'll be fine. You can zone them out pretty easily.
I mean, at the very least, they're a perfect field weapon. You know, if someone is forced to micro to kill your flamers, your other units are going to shit on everything.
Yeah, they actually, one of the big things that they tax is APM, because the amount of APM that you spend trying to actually do damages with them is so much less than what it takes to defend against flamers.
Yep.
That is definitely a thing. Cool, so difference in GDI versus GDI, the big thing to me is like Orca can actually be used, because
Helicopters! I hate helicopters, but you know what? They are usable.
Yeah. So you can use the Orca in GDI versus GDI, but not really GDI versus Nod, because recon bikes have AA, and recon bikes are a massive
I mean,
part
if
of
you
the
have that poor fool who's like me, who is like constantly bashing the tank buggy is better than bike buggy, and then gets fucking wrecked by orcas, it's like, well, at least you tried to be different.
If they do make SSMs, you can use them to snipe that. That's probably
true.
another
Yeah.
use
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, so you can use them a little bit, but you generally wouldn't want probably more than 2.
Yeah.
And if you're like me, you make 7, and then you could snipe off refineries every time.
Or you can snipe off airstrips as well, because orcas have like the best weapon in the game to kill airstrips that isn't a tank. Which is kind of
but then the problem is they don't have a lot of other targets. So it's like you blow up the airstrip and then you've spent like $9,000 on Orca, and they've like, so I built recon bikes other than this, so what are you going to do with those Orcas now? And you're like,
Gilly
definitely not
Conyard,
attack
maybe?
that.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Guys, you can go around the recon bikes. They can fly!
But can they fly? You're like, oh yeah, I'm just going to order them over there, and then like 4 of them fly back to your helipad. It's like, alright, well, this attack is now dead.
No, I know what you mean. If they have,
But
like
yes,
literally no use
your
for the most
point
part.
is valid, but they're not very useful for sniping off units. And then their damage versus harvesters is a bit crap, weird, random, maybe is the term.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're not.
They're just quite limited in what targets they really have that they can get damage done.
Yes.
Against. Like, cool. And the Nod versus Nod meta, going over that quickly.
Nod versus Nod is actually really interesting, right? My favorite thing about Nod versus Nod is that every unit is viable. Every single one. You could use 80 old combo. Like I was playing a game earlier where it's like this guy's going mass buggies, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna go tech up straight for flame tanks. Come at me, bitch. Like I defeated bike buggy with really tank flamer.
It's like putting down artillery in it.
Yep, artillery usable. You gotta be careful. You gotta be careful with them. They're a bit tricky to move, but I mean, you can use anything you want.
Yeah. Cool. So that's neat. But there are some unused units in the game. So the obvious ones are the rocket launcher, the EMLRS, and the chemical warrior.
What?
The chem warrior. Right. I want to comment quickly on the MLRS because its use is very niche. But I think it has some untapped potential against players that like to make obelisks. Like, it's very useful to have that as that extra building damage.
Okay, interesting.
I don't think I've ever seen a chem warrior used in my entire life.
They're basically a BM weapon, aren't they? It's kind of like, what are they actually? They're already useful, or like those maps that are just Tiberium only, because like even in late game, there's still Tiberium everywhere. Because that's like the one niche.
Bizarre that they were put underneath the temple. It's like
I don't
you
think
get-
it's bizarre they put underneath the temple, because their damage stats are actually ridiculous. But at that stage of the game, it's quite easy to just pick off random infantry. So
well, that's the thing. Infantry is like, yeah, it becomes increasingly harder to use as you go along. So I'm not quite sure what they were trying to, because it's like you can get chem warriors. Oh, and also a commando. It's like,
yeah,
yeah, I think one of these units is a bit better than the other one.
yeah.
It's a little bit off topic, but I would love to see some sort of Craig system, kind of like in Dune, where you can actually put infantry on a specific tile in vehicles.
Oh yeah,
can't.
infantry
I
rock.
would do that. That'd be great.
That would be quite cool, actually.
What is that, like infantry only cells?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
yeah, that
Craigs.
would be cool.
Imagine if Red Alert had that. It would never be used.
Oh, I would make a map make it use.
You get people who
Make
make
a map
maps
that's
that are
all like that.
only infantry, and then it's just like, hi, I have 40 flavors, you have 40 flavors, and then there's like 2 shots and all of them just explode.
I mean, I tried to replicate it, so if you actually go into like the map data or whatever the fuck, you can actually change whether or not a unit can transverse over that set,
Oh yeah.
like that cell. So you would actually put like, I don't remember what it's called.
I remember you had a map called,
like
I
that.
think it was Slither, where you had like the little beach tiles so you couldn't base crawl over, so you were constantly locked in your base.
Right. Yeah, now you're hitting me with that one.
It's similar to that, I'd assume.
Exactly. So like, I could maybe have like a certain tile cell, right, that would do something specific, kind of like a Craig. So only infantry can go through this, but
Yeah.
vehicles can't. So that's another thing with like terrain, at least.
I suppose
I tried to do it in Red Alert 1.
yeah, it doesn't really work, does it? It's kind of too hacky and gimmicky and doesn't really work within the engine.
Well, it's not that. It's like there's certain tiles that have the rough terrain like attached to it, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
you'd get weird instances where vehicles can't transverse over certain
Normal
tiles,
terrain.
pretty much. That like wasn't intent. So yeah, carry on. We were talking. I forgot what we were talking about. But I wanted to edit that.
I was talking about the MLRS for a bit, and then we were talking about Chem Warriors. I mean, the thing about Tiberium is kind of like the opposite of infantry rock, really, isn't it? It kind of forces you to position infantry differently.
Yeah.
So, I think that if infantry were better, Tiberium would become more of like a tactical positioning point.
That's the thing, isn't it? The infantry are already bad. The Tiberium just feels like a nail in their coffin in some situations.
Like, particularly in GDI, if you know it, it's like, well, Tiberium blobs make it really hard for GDI to play, because unless they can actually get a critical mass of tanks, they kind of just die out on the map.
yeah,
Especially when you're trying to like defend against harvester harass from bikes.
I was just gonna
Yeah.
say.
Which is where Humvees would be used, but Humvees are kind of weak, so... I swear, like, once every 100 games, you will see someone like me load an APC full of rockets or grenadiers or whatever, and just dump it in the middle of Tiberium fields. Just like,
I actually
hi.
did that with TA with like Chinooks and APCs.
Hmm.
Throwing some rocket soldiers in there and just drop them next to harvesters.
As I say, you got to manually load them all, and it's just too time consuming.
That's
yeah.
another thing. At least TD,
Yeah,
you have
for
to
sure.
put one in. It's like an APM thing. It's just like, I don't got time to put every one of these motherfuckers in an APC. It's just like, I know what you mean. So
Yeah.
They fixed it a little bit in Red Alert, but it still takes ages for them to go in. It at least fixes the APM side of it.
Yeah,
It's
you
still
just
a load.
yeah, but then the side effect of that is now infantry are completely shit. So hey,
Yeah,
we fixed
yeah.
the APC problem and then made it worse by not making it useful. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, even if we had that system in Tiberian Dawn, that wouldn't be too bad, right?
I would really like that actually, because then you could actually see APC play evolve beyond just engineers.
Yeah. For sure. Okay, cool. So let's actually get on to... So have you got your wee balance notes there, Lovehandles?
Jeez, yeah.
Nice. So we've just gone over sort of the meta that we had. So me and Lovehandles have been working on what we think would be a pretty good direction. We've got some numbers even for a balance patch for Tiberian Dawn. We want to run this as a community patch first through CnCNet, and hopefully we'll get a little bit of view from the guys working on the remaster with a bit of luck. We'll try and share this video around at least, and we can talk about what we've got for this, and yeah. So let's crack into that. So the first thing that we wanted was to not have the APC be a crusher, because it's a real...
I suppose the only thing you could use it for engineers other than that is, yeah, just squashing blobs of dudes for fun. It's really cheap and really fast.
I still think squishing's a gimmick. You all know that. All right, carry on.
Squishing is a gimmick, but it should be a weapon. But that cheap and that armored, that's scary. Like
the fact that it can run over like multiple guys at once is pretty.
The other thing, I wish running over bikes worked properly. Like either have it in like properly or don't have it at all.
Yeah, I actually mentioned that like a little while back to Lovehandles about we actually did a little bit of testing with how to actually make vehicles run over the bike more consistently, and we did kind of figure it out as well. So now we're super pro bike crushers.
Super pro bike crushers. Okay. I demand the next game that we play where someone plays bike buggy that you crush all bikes. New change, buggies now crushable.
It's like, yeah, keep APC's crusher and just make the bikes crushable. You just this new meta, just spam mass APC and run over all bikes.
APC is running over bikes for days. It's basically just open RA now, isn't it? Anyway.
But yeah, so in all seriousness, the APC is the only like heavy fast crusher in the game. Like the only other fast crusher is probably the stealth tank, which we'll mention as well in just a minute. But I mean, the fast crushers are an obvious problem in Red Alert. It makes the infantry just completely useless. And it's something that we kind of frown upon in Tiberian Dawn. And the APC is the one culprit. And it overshadows a lot of the other anti-infantry weapons in the game. So it actually just hurts the meta. It makes things less interesting, because it's just like, well, if I just make this APC instead of everything else, I can just do that. So I think APC crusher, no.
Fair enough. Right, next.
So we've dropped the Apache ammunition from 15 to 12, so it's not a huge nerf, but we've looked at bringing up some of the HP on some of the structures as well, so that it's not completely ridiculous against everything. But it still means that the Apache versus units is pretty similar to how it is.
Yep. I mean, you only want to get like sporadic shots off against units anyway, because if they bring AA or whatever, it's like, well, it's no point. So yeah, it just makes them less good versus buildings, really, and harvesters.
Yeah, that's
Apaches are really good against harvesters for some reason.
Yeah, so if anyone's listening who don't know, that there are problems with the Apache in that like 4 of them can blow up a construction yard, and then like 3 of them can blow up like power plants and
weapons factories, because playing GDI wasn't painful enough as it was anyway.
Yes, and you have almost no AA. Well, your main AA that you have is actually just rocket soldiers. You can't really get to mammoth tanks nearly fast enough. The Apaches build very, very quickly, and at the lowest tech possible, basically. So you have very little response time, and multiple important structures will be wiped out of your base very, very fast. It's not really very fun to play against. It's pretty horrible for new players if they see that and they're like, well, I guess that's what this game is about. I can't really be bothered with this. It's not really a very, very helpful part of it. Obviously, we still want the Apache to be used in the game. We want to see all of the units have a role, but we just don't want to see units completely overshadowing everything. So this is our little...
I do think there is like a specific build order that you can do, which is basically just one helipad into a normal airstrip macro game, because it's like, you have no idea how annoying that single Apache can be to people.
Yeah. And if it denies scouting as well, which the Apache might be able to do, then the GDI player in response to this has no idea if they should be building AA or if they should be like getting ready to be basically rushed by bike buggy. And the response to both of those is completely different.
Yeah.
So And if the non-player scouts and sees you building AA, they can just build the airstrip, and if they don't, they can cancel the airstrip and
Kill you.
and build the Apaches instead. Yeah, like
Yeah.
if they have view on it, they can actually just choose and then just win the game from there. It's a bit
Bit dumb.
it's a bit ridiculous. Cool. So one of the underused units is the stealth tank. So we had like two changes for this. We thought we want to bring up the HP on it, so it's gone from 110 to 125. And we also thought perhaps like a cost buff as well, so 900 to 700. I
can't remember what I originally commented on this, but there was something I'm mentioning about the APC crushing and the fast crushing on this. It's like, you can crush infantry with this, and occasionally it works like perfectly. But I will say that the main counter to stealth tanks is minigunners. So
yeah,
I mean,
as soon as they have to stop as well, like if they get hit by a grenade, like man, it does a lot of damage to them. Like this is a light unit, whereas the APC can kind of run through. Yeah, and it basically takes no damage from the infantry. Like it takes damage from rocket soldiers, but then the amount of value you get from crushing a rocket soldier is so high, and the rocket soldier can't dodge. Yeah, that basically APC is just like a great troop killer. The stealth tank does not feel like a great troop killer. It feels more like something that you're going to lose if you drive it into a bunch of them.
Plus, in the later game, if you're ranking stealth tanks, you're not giving yourself like an extra army bulk, really, because it doesn't work as a frontline unit at all. Stealth detection is kind of weird because it's all adjacent cells of certain things. Okay, that's fine. And then it has the unfortunate problem of smoking if it takes half HP damage. It's like, it's right there. What a surprise.
It'd be really nice if we could probably just get a patch on that so the stealth tank doesn't smoke.
If you remove the smoke effect from it, I would say then you can turn the HP buff back, because it's like, there's no point then.
That's a good point on the smoke. I actually didn't think about that.
The whole, constantly revealing stuff with its red HP, I mean, if that case, it's a bit annoying, but it might give Repair Bay a bit more use.
Yeah.
That'd be cool to see a Repair Bay buff too as well.
Yeah, actually, I've just thought of that. We should really get one of those.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see the Repair Bay repair things significantly faster.
Yep.
As it stands, it's kind of not worth using them. It's like you already have to drag your unit right back to your base. You have to build the thing, then you have to pay for the repairs. It's like, it's just too many things that...
Or free repairs, actually. Free repairs would also be really good.
I wouldn't mind, like, basically... Like, you're already paying for the pad, right?
Yeah, so, the only reason I wouldn't say
the repairs are free and they're reasonably fast.
The only reason I wouldn't say decrease the price of the pad is because it's the Mammoth tank tech.
That's right. It's a technology.
That's the only reason.
Yeah. I also agree with that. Cool. So we also want to buff the artillery a bit. So at the moment it has the slowest turn rate in the game of 2. All of the other units, all of the other tanks and artilleries have a turn rate of 5, so it's under half the speed. And you'll notice that the turn speed on the artillery is really...
The turn speed is pretty bad, but I mean, I'm okay with that, because if you get it to shoot stuff, the damage is just like massive. Like,
well, as soon as it paths incorrectly, if it's like in a bunch of units and it sort of turns around to go the wrong way, and then it's like, oh wait, no, now it's free.
The only reason I would increase its rate of turn is for that. Not because it would make it better at combat, which obviously it would a little bit, but because it lets you move it into position faster and less clunkier.
Yeah, and that's sort of what I want to see with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
And
then we also thought
really cheap.
Possibly giving it an HP buff as well. So it's at 75 at the moment, which is quite low.
Yeah.
So we maybe like up it to 100.
I'd say maybe about 85 would be better. Because it's a really cheap unit. Think about it. It's only 450. It's less than a bike.
It is, yeah. It just means that you have to like commit to it a bit more.
Investing into artillery isn't a heavy invest. Go on.
I'm gonna say the artillery is pretty inaccurate as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't always hit. In comparison to like a bike, it's pretty consistent.
But it's not the biggest investment into the artillery is not using it, it's protecting it. So that has like some sort of counterplay there, whereas like if you protect the artillery properly and people target it, you actually get free damage on stuff. So
Yeah.
it's kind of an interplay on that, which is
Yeah.
probably why we shouldn't buff it too much.
Yeah,
its
that's
range
right.
is pretty low as well, so you have to get pretty close with it. But yeah, so
I like
cool.
artillery,
So,
but niche, very niche.
yeah. So I mean the HP buff was something that we felt was more experimental. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, I think in combination the two buffs would be excessive for sure, but yeah.
Okay.
I think maybe a lower rate of 10 would still be fitting also, but
I mean, you could implement both buffs and then maybe up its cost to like 500 or 550.
yeah, but yeah, I don't know if I want to really touch the cost though.
Yeah. It's experimental, so we'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, I
Anyway.
guess it needs testing, but I'm sort of with Lovehandles on that. I don't know if I'd want to change the cost of it. I sort of want to keep things the same if I can, for most things. Yeah. Humvee. So the Humvee, as we said before, is a little bit like it does exist in the GDI versus Nod meta, but it's a bit tricky to
Underwhelming.
use.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit kind of just gets gunned down, and even is pretty sort of only half useful in GDI versus GDI. It has sort of limited use there, so we thought an HP buff for that would be a good idea.
Can
Bring
I
up
just
a little bit?
Can I just ask, when you were digging into your numbers, how much HP does a buggy have?
140.
140.
Yeah, exactly. This is basically a, what is it, 33% increase, I believe. So the price ratio is the same. Is the idea.
So for 10 more HP, you pay 100 more bucks.
Makes sense,
Oh.
right?
And 50% more build time.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the advantage of the Humvee should be its survivability, but I mean the difference is so minimal that there's no gains made.
Yeah, that's right. The Humvee compared to the buggy is terrible. I do think that the Humvee should remain basically a worse unit than the buggy. Like I think that it, like for what you pay, I do actually think that the Humvee should lose to it in the same sort of way that like light tanks lose to medium tanks. Kind of it helps the two sides their flavor, but perhaps it should be more of a soft counted bikes than it already is. Like it already is kind of a soft counted bike, so at least helps design them. But it would be better to.
It doesn't do a great
like,
job at that, but it does help definitely because it's all just.
Yeah.
It's actually quite decent at taking bike rockets. So, I mean, giving it another 35 HP should more than fix that problem.
Yeah. I mean, the testing that we did sort of, from memory, it placed it worse than a buggy but better than a bike. Was that right, Lovehandles?
Say again?
It placed it worse than a buggy but now considerably better than a bike, like noticeably better than a bike.
Yeah, I guess so. That's not too far off.
Yeah.
They're more consistent against them now, even if you do a TI-based matchup, right? I think.
Yeah.
If you do it just based on cost, Humvees win pretty decisively.
Yeah. That sort of sounds about right. Like you wouldn't want it to own the light vehicle field. You know, it needs to be just something that's helpful.
Yeah, like I said before, I think at the most Humvees and buggies should be evenly matched, but buggies should still be better at harassing because of their superior damage, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Even then, I would probably prefer like buggies to be slightly better, just because if you want Humvees to be able to match them, it will require an excessive HP buff, more or less.
I mean, that would bring more tanks into play, but at the same time, that kind of leaves you in a bit of a weird, what's the word, like limbo almost.
I mean, I like the idea of light tanks seeing more play as a Humvee counter. A package with two, I would imagine. But yeah, it's just I'm worried it would just require too much of a health buff, realistically speaking. I think I tested like 230 HP Humvees, and they traded more or less evenly with buggies if you did a cost-based matchup, but that's like that's
really?
so much health. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
So
This about that number, I think.
But that shows how much the extra damage health buggies do. It's pretty insane.
Hmm.
It carries them pretty hard. But yeah,
Okay.
185. Yeah, matches them health-wise at least relative to the cost.
Okay. No, that's fair.
I think it's solid.
I like that. Right.
So yeah, so in regarding the build speed, the buggy would still outright win, which I think is also good as well because it keeps like Nod as being this team that can quite quickly
Map
throw
control,
down
hit and run kind of thing.
Yeah, they're the more aggressive team on the ground in the earlier part of the game, and I think it should absolutely stay that way.
Yeah.
I don't want to see GDI being able to be like, oh, it's cool, I built a bunch of Humvees, I get to push on you and not has the defense on it.
Yeah.
Bit BS actually, so yeah. But as it stands, the buggy compared to the Humvee is a bit too much. So we think bring the Humvee up a bit, and then should be good. Then we'll play with those numbers a bit as well. I mean, like we can test it in some actual matches and see how it plays out. And if it's too much, we can always dial it back.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean nothing of this is like particularly set in stone anyway. So we'd probably be taking some of the as we go, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think like the design on it is that we just think that the Humvee is a little bit too weak, and we think that it's the best way to change that is probably with an HP buff.
Yes, definitely HP buff.
Cool. So moving on, the mobile rocket launcher, the MLRS.
Yep.
The most obvious change that we want to see, comm center tech. We don't want it under advanced comm. It's a bit not possible.
It's too late game for that, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And it really, I mean, on a lot of maps you can't even really get there. So I think if you place it under comm center, then it's like cool. That's something that you can actually consider like ticking straight into, and then
it offers a nice support as well to like medium tanks under siege with constant bikes, because it's like, okay, it's a prime target, but at the same time it does huge damage to bikes, and if you've got enough units you can protect them quite easily.
yeah.
It's only when like SSNs and tanks come into play that it becomes a bit picky.
Yeah.
I could actually see this replacing the Grenadier into like needing to be into the mix. I think in fact this would probably just be mid tank MRS.
You'd probably end up seeing in GDI. You wouldn't see a lot in GDI v GDI because they didn't see much point. It would help a little bit against like rocket blobs, but other than that, yeah. But in like against Nord, it's like, well, okay, so you've got bike buggies swarming, you've got tanks all around the place. It's like, okay, well, I reckon you could just end up with like a medium launcher and then minigunners as your blobs.
I actually really like this change right here, the MOS one.
I think you've made it too cheap though. That's my only comment on this change.
Yeah, so I mean, this is all like really experimental stuff. Obviously, like we don't really know how good the unit is or what it does because it's so far out of what's viable to tech into in a usual game that we actually don't really know exactly what it does. So I think the first thing we would want to do is just make it communication center tech and just test it at that.
Yep.
And then go from there. But then if it did require further buffs, then we can look at raising the hit points on it a bit so that it's a little bit harder to snipe off, and we can look at maybe lowering the cost a little bit to make it a little viable in that way as well.
Okay.
I think that's pretty much all we want to say about that one.
For testing purposes, I'll let it keep it this way, but I think it should cost a little bit more than 650.
Okay, yeah, that's
This
probably
will
fair.
probably even derange non-players from spamming light vehicles because MRS chew them up. So you might actually see more tanks as well.
Yep. I mean,
Yeah.
flame tanks absolutely obliterate MLRS if you get into range, which is a hilarious matchup to see.
Honestly, anything that gets into the range to MRS is going to kill it.
Yeah.
But I like this change. In GDI versus GDI, you probably could mix them in as well. I mean, it's just like a little...
It helps against
More damage
stalkers, maybe, I guess, but they're not particularly good against their units. Just a miss.
I think that'll be a... We'll see where the meta takes us with that one. I think that one's solid, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Cool.
Chem Warrior next.
Yeah, so Chem Warrior. obviously, we also don't want it to be under the Temple of Nod because it's kind of ridiculous.
It's kind of useless, really.
So, yeah, so we've said like what I mean. Let's just test it under the communication center and see what goes for it. I personally think that it's not strong enough that anyone will care.
It has really good building damage, and it's better against armor than flamers, but it's not good enough to justify making them instead of rocket soldiers. So,
yeah,
we might see a little bit more Chem Warrior play for like very niche tactics, but it won't do a whole lot because they're quite expensive to make as well. I mean, 300 a pop is like, well,
yeah, they're 300 pop, aren't they?
yeah, and it takes twice as much time to make one as a flamer, right? Because they're two.
Yeah.
So 100% increase in in build time as well.
They're a solid investment if you can get them to deal the damage there. So, a hit and miss.
Yeah,
I do think on the side of this though that the teching up to Temple or not is like, okay, you've got Commando and MCV. What's it? I actually think you should move SSM to Temple and see what happens.
Maybe. Depends. Because the other thing is with the MLRS, it might sort of change GDI for not needing Grenadiers as much.
Oh, 100%.
But like SSM, I don't know, might be needed earlier. It's tricky. It's hard to know.
Because once MRS come out, you don't ever need to make a Grenadier again.
Probably not.
MRS shred light vehicles.
Yep.
I think you might still have some, but yeah.
But a counterplay would be using SSMs on MRLS. I think that'd be
that's right.
Maybe. Not sure on that one. But I mean, it's on Obelisk anyway, so it's not much difference putting it on Obelisk or Temple. I don't think it is anyway.
I think it's weird that you have to build a defensive structure for tech. It's so odd to me.
Yeah.
You clearly never talked to the guys when they did Aftermath. I've built this Tesla coil. Suddenly I have 2 really OP units in my inventory.
Yeah, so that's the Chemical Warrior. The only other thing that I would suggest with the Chem Warrior would be like buff its HP or something like that to try and make it like significantly.
I think you should do that.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty cool. And my only other thoughts, which Lovehandles is dead against, and that's totally fine, is the idea of bringing the regular flamers HP down to 50, so the same. So it's at 70 at the moment. And one of my thoughts was put it at 50, so make it the same as like minigunners and grenadiers, and then that would create more difference between it and a Chem Warrior. Well,
I think with Flamethrowers are kind of in a weird spot right now because you kind of need them, but at the same time, they're kind of strong.
Yeah.
Like Chem Warriors?
That's how I feel. When they're a glass cannon, right? Like, and they're pretty much a suicide soldier as well. You send them in, it's like probably going to die, but it'll do heaps of damage before it does.
Yeah, which is, I mean, like 200 each is a reasonable investment. Like maybe the base value should be something like 220. But they're not actually in that bad a spot. They're just a bit terrifying if you can't micro.
Yeah.
They're almost like little banelings in a way.
They are, and when they die, they also actually explode and hurt things that are next to them. So even if you get the flamer in close, but then like the enemy infantry kills it, it'll still explode and kill the enemy infantry, I guess.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy in that way. So that's the other difference with Chem Warrior that Lovehandles pointed out to me that I didn't know when we did some testing on, which is they don't explode nearly as badly as the flamer does when they die. They're actually far calmer.
Yes.
So they don't blow each other up.
They still do friendly damage, but not nearly as much.
Yeah. It's something I didn't know about. So that's cool. So that's maybe a reason also that you would build them. So maybe they can go with your light tanks and stuff a bit better.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Tanks.
So the next one's a general buff for both teams, which is the rocket soldier. 25 to 50.
I think you've overdone it a little bit, but okay. 25.
So
I think that 25 is too low, but I think that 50 is too high.
Right. So you feel it should be weaker than like a minigun or a grenadier?
I mean, it needs to be like tanky enough to stop it just immediately dying, even just in general from general tank shells. But it needs to be something that's worth protecting, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, 50 HP isn't that much. Like, it is only the same as like a grenadier. So like 2 grenades or whatever will still kill it.
I guess.
I think even with 50 HP, I'm not sure they have any like good matchups. Is the thing. They're still going to be cost inefficient largely.
Wow.
Like, but bugs and hobbies still trade better against them. All infantry will.
I guess.
Artillery, yeah, flame tanks. What else? MRS, SM launches will still do so.
Actually, yeah. On that point alone, you know what? 50's fine. Okay, I'll take back everything I said. We'll go with 50 and see what happens. I am gonna miss flamers one hit killing them all though. Just, you know, one flamer gets in and 8 of them die at once. It's just such a satisfying sight to see. But yes, I see your point.
Also a very painful sight at times.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot to. The other thing is like, it's a lot to pay for a 25. Like at 300 credits.
Yep.
It's a lot of money to.
If you compare it to all the other infantry units, you're getting like fuck all effective health. Like that's the thing.
Yeah,
3
but
million will get you like
it is also your only like infantry-based anti-armor option, so they are still kind of necessary in the game. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I suppose
and
buffing
also
their
the
HP
only AA units as well.
gives them a lot more survivability near Tiberium as well.
Yeah.
It's gonna make them even.
It also means that they don't get one-shotted by Apaches.
Oh god.
This is also part of the Apache map that like GDI's AA is slightly more reliable against Apaches. It's not a huge difference. Like the Apaches can still kill them, but it's something.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, somewhat helpful. So the next one's an engineer change. We don't want to change the engineer like a ton, but we do think it's kind of ridiculous because in a lot of cases the engineer is popping from an APC. It only has to move like a single cell in order to capture a structure, and sometimes it's a key structure that just outright wins the game. Because when you capture a structure, it doesn't just mean I have the enemy structure now. It means I can sell it, basically, which destroys it. And I get a cash bonus for doing so. So pretty damn good unit.
Everyone's favorite.
Yeah, right. So we're saying at the moment we'll give it a minor HP buff from 25 to 20. Now you had some numbers, Lovehandles, on what that meant regarding things changing it, like a guard tower or an Apache one-shots it under that, right?
Yeah, Apaches and guard towers will one-shot them now. And I think normally it takes between, what is it? I think it's 3 to 9 shots for a buggy Apache, a buggy, an APC or Humvee to kill them. But now that margin has been reduced to 2 to 4, I believe.
So it's a pretty big thing. That 5 HP, like 25 HP, and it's anywhere between 3 and 9. God damn RNG on.
Yeah, but it's the movement speed.
Yeah.
It's the move speed that does it, I think.
Oh yeah.
So the other thing is that it'll actually help there to be more consistency on how much it actually takes to kill the engineer as well.
Yeah.
Like if it goes to 2 to 4, it's like, okay, that's more manageable than 3 to 9.
I am a little fed up with engineers just walking past 5 Humvees into my conyard. It's like, alright, sure, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, basically it's like if you have the defenses there and you micro correctly, we think that you should actually have
kill
succeeded.
The engineer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a fair thing. And if you mess it up, well then, that was your fault. And I think that's fine. We can still have the strategy in the game, and it's a thing that you can learn to do to play it. Cool. Right. And we also said make it move a little bit slower. So
yeah, they move really fast for some reason.
So they move at the same speed as a minigunner, so which is actually slower than a grenadier. So
well, yeah, but grenadiers are fast bastards, so
not super fast. But we're placing it between the speed of a minigunner and a rocket soldier.
Yeah, I like that.
Not as slow as a rocket soldier, but slower than a minigunner at least.
Yep.
Which gives you a little bit more time to shoot it in the face before it walks one cell and finishes the entire game off.
Yeah. God.
So one of the ones here that we're going to test, and I'm unsure how I feel about this, but lowering the cost of the super weapons. Now, obviously, we've already changed the tech requirements on like 2 of the units that you're going to get from building your super weapon, the mobile rocket launcher and the King Warrior. But what about the idea that the temple is only 2,000 and the advanced comm center is like 1,800 or 1,850?
Yeah, I'm
So
pretty,
that's
I'm
like
pretty,
1,000
I
bucks.
mean, even if they still had the tech requirements they brought with them, I'm still happy with this change, so
Yeah.
I think this is a good
But-
thing.
My only thoughts on it are that the super weapons, much like sort of like the engineer, is like you click on their thing and it blows it up. Like, yeah. In other words, there's not a lot of counterplay, so I'm a little bit iffy as to whether, like, yes, this will bring the super weapons more into the game, make them more viable, sure, but does that make the game better? Or
Super weapon
is it just like how the
counterplay.
super weapons are?
Super weapon counterplay is what adjusting to the fact that your opponent actually has one.
Yeah.
Which is GDI is a lot harder because weapons factories tend to die pretty fast to super weapons, whereas as now it's not so bad.
Yeah, that's right.
But by that stage
yeah.
of the game as a GDI player, unless you're in a mirror of course, you should have some form of map control over the not player. So it's kind of a counterplay in a way.
Yeah.
It's also used for breaking sieges, which is kind of why I thought moving SSN to Tempo would make more sense.
Right. Okay, that makes some sense. So,
Because like
yeah. I'm
prioritize.
not sure how I feel about it, just because like I feel that's quite out of the way. But maybe if the temple was more accessible, like at the price that we've got it at here,
Yeah.
then maybe that would be okay.
Like temple
Right,
play is
because
quite rare. Advanced communication center play is even rarer. So, I mean, I like going for good early-ish temple, but that's only if I'm comfortable enough to invest into that while not dying. So,
Yeah.
bit of a mix really.
So here
I
it would only
guess-
be 500 credits more than an obelisk.
Yeah.
So that would definitely like put it far more within the range where you could just get it, and then you would have SSM in that case if you were going to move the SSM to that
Yeah.
technology.
There's
Cool.
actually quite a lot of creative things you can do with both super weapons though. Like advanced communications mostly used for things picking off things like weapons factories or obelisk supply. You know, that's normal, that's for like timed pushes and things. There's a lot of creative things you can do with a nuke though. You can nuke like power plants, nuke weapons factories, you can nuke blocks of Tiberium under your opponent's control.
True. Yeah.
Which is hilarious if you hit. It's like, oh, you've just wasted like 5k credits worth of their stuff. Easy.
The biggest thing is just that you're not building anything else while you're building the temple or the advanced communication center, and yeah, in turn you're not taking more control of the map, and
Yes.
you're just paying for the super weapon for the most part.
Yeah, it's a really slow investment, right? And then once you complete it, you don't even get anything right away. You're just, it's like, oh wow, you might unlock some tech, but your actual super weapon is just charging. It's like, now I get to wait even longer before I can do anything.
Super weapons are classic because they're like necessary if you're going to a really long game, but knowing when to invest into it is really risky because it's quite a big investment. So if you could commit to the long game and you know you can, then that's great, but making it cheaper makes it a bit easier to do that.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
Cool. And now everyone's favorite buff.
Yes!
So
Yes! It's usable now! Hooray!
yeah, so Weapons Factory is currently so weak that it's as weak as a power plant. Basically, if you sneeze on it, it will fall over.
Yeah.
And we thought that the Weapons Factory should still be somewhat weak in the sense that that's like part of how the game works and part of how the balance is, and there's something interesting to be said there. But that it's probably too weak as it is. So we've taken the paper mache Weapons Factory and added a slice of cardboard onto the front of it. So it goes from 400 to 480 HP.
It's 20% increase, I think, so that's not so bad.
It's not too bad. The Apache is nerfed, so I think we worked out it's 4 Apaches to kill a factory. So that's pretty cool.
You can also get away with 3 if they're not repairing it.
At the moment. How much would it be now? Would it be 5 or 4? 4, I think.
It's still 4.
4. I think 4 is what we've changed it to. That was kind of the point. It should be the same as all.
You'd probably have to bring 5 if they bring AA, though. Gotta be safe.
Yeah, that's right. And that sounds like a fairer trade rather than like 3 Apaches to kill it.
Yeah.
It also means that like 3... Like, the amount of stupid things that I've managed to lose a Weapons Factory to I think I lost one to like 3 bikes before. I was like, had some grenadiers nearby. I was like, oh, just shift these grenadiers down to the other side to wall the bikes off. And like before they even got there, the bikes had blown it up. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah, if you could make a montage of stupid things you've lost your weapons factory to, it'd be like a 40-minute long video.
Yeah.
It's just...
So I think this is decent. Like, it's almost an extra.
Like, my least favorite one was when I lost mine to 1 stealth tank. It's just like, what? Come on. Dude.
Yeah.
Or just grenadiers running up. We can literally run 5 up to them and just micro the
It's
turrets.
like when you have, there are 2 types of people who have their weapons factory. They're the one kind that just ignore it, queue a second one, and spam a bunch of units. And then there's a second kind that invests everything into protecting it. Like, you have like 2 guard towers, sandbags, a bunch of rocket soldiers, and they still fucking lose it to a bunch of buggies.
Yeah. Because all of the weapons that you have often just can't kill whatever is killing it faster.
Yep.
So it's just the amount of damage per second that anything attacking it can output usually means that the weapons factory dies before the units attacking it die. So this will hopefully help to change that a bit, to make it not so completely ridiculous. But we still want it to be kind of like in a weaker thing, and so one of the things here is
it's still got to be the weak point, I think, here.
Yeah. So one of the things is even in GDI versus GDI, we're looking to up the damage of the ion cannon from 600 to 640, so that it can still kill weapons factory.
Okay.
That's
Fine
the
by
idea.
me.
They should totally one-shot weapons factory still.
Makes it a little better versus units as well.
Yeah.
Don't you just love it when you see people, like, you know, when you're building a tanks out of the weapons factory, and once you get to the 6th one, they sort of start queuing up on top of each other? If you get, like, someone who's not paying attention, you just ion cannon the stack of vehicles, it's like, oh, yes.
I've legitimately done that, and it ion cannoned a lot of medium tanks at once. I don't know how many, but it was a lot. I think it was over 10.
It's so funny. Like, I did that to somebody, and they just like, oh, and rage quit. Like, nope, no tanks for you.
Yeah, so that's a little bug which they should maybe fix as well. Is that if you keep just building tanks out of your weapons factory, and you keep building any units out of your weapons factory, and you don't move them, the units start to stack on top of each other. Sometimes they can stack on top of each other in other situations as well, so probably should just look at getting that bug fixed. Cool. And we also wanted to increase the sight range of both the MCV and the construction yard, so you can see a little bit further around you and you know the direction to build in.
Yep.
Without knowing the map, that just means that if you don't know the map,
you can see a bit better to plan your base.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a nice little quality of life change for people that are newer to the game or that just don't know the map.
Yeah.
Fine. And the other thing is we want to change the con yard from being, armor 1 to armor 2, so from what is described as wood to light. And this helps it against like
bit tanky.
It helps it against
most projectiles.
Different stuff, yeah. Most notably, it helps it against like high explosive stuff, so the Apaches will take a lot longer to blow it up. I think it actually makes it slightly worse against small arms though, so watch out for that.
Great, buggies are back.
I don't think it actually does though, right? How many units actually use the small arms?
Well, the most important one is Bucky and Minigunner.
Yeah, like
buggies, APCs, and Humvees, right?
Yes.
I think that's it.
What units use light amber right now?
Humvee, Buggy, I guess.
And all the artillery units.
Artillery.
So HE will do.
I think what armor type is Harvesters? Those are light, aren't they?
Harvesters are light as well.
They're heavy.
They're light too, yeah.
Just kind of annoying.
Basically everything that isn't like a tank or an APC is light.
And then bikes have wood armor, right?
Yeah, bikes are wood. For whatever reason.
Yeah.
And so are Visceroids.
Visceroids are funny things.
Ah, that reminds me. So flame attacks won't do as much damage to it, I believe.
Yes.
Yes.
I think that's a good thing.
Light armor is basically just better wood armor, I think.
Yeah.
In effect, anyway. Because the small arms weakness doesn't actually materialize to anything. Because It's such a small percentage. I think it's like 50% versus 55.
Yeah,
So
it's only a tiny bit.
yeah, because of how rounding works, I don't think it matters.
Yeah. So I think that's fine. It'll give it a bit more viability to not be picked off quite so easily. I do think that that's probably more of a buff to GDI than it is to Nod, in a sense that Nod is doing more like hit and run style tactics. But just given that, like, particularly losing the construction yard is like basically the game is now starting to come to a close once that happens. That it's fine. Like, it'll keep the game like running, and yeah, like we want to have a longer game.
It'll maybe make you think more about that all-in, win the game in one move kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
More of a commitment.
Yeah. But obviously still very, very viable to do. And like we said, it actually technically makes it slightly worse against small arms, so buggies might be actually slightly better against it. But the big thing is that like it changes Apaches to not be able to just hit it with 4. That's the big change. It goes up to what? Is it 6 or 7 Lovehandles, do you know?
6. Should be 6.
Yeah.
Alright, that's fine. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's 7 Orca, so it's pretty close.
Alright,
yeah,
what's next?
That's good. And then like the last 2 changes are kind of a bit different. So Lovehandles feels that there should be perhaps no crew in any of the vehicles. So at the moment, sometimes when vehicles explode, crew come out and they like shoot some of the other things that are around. Like maybe they kill some bikes, or maybe they shoot some rocket soldiers. And for consistency's sake,
I don't really have a problem with this though.
I'm actually with you, Jack. I don't have an issue with it, but
I don't really see what that like. The only time that changes anything is like a minigunner pops out something that's only being killed with bikes. It's like, well, you didn't bring anything to kill dudes.
Yeah.
I could probably see maybe a minigunner pops out and kills a rocket soldier. That's probably where I could see that.
Well, I mean, the rocket soldier buffs have technically fixed that.
No, minigunner would probably still kill him, to be honest, but
once the vehicle's destroyed, it should be destroyed. But
it's just like an odd bit of RNG. Ultimately, it doesn't matter all that much, but I just don't see much like value in preserving it. That's kind of it.
Yeah, not really that bothered. I'm guessing this Visceroid change is just a joke, right?
The Visceroid change is where we're sick of Visceroids actually doing anything, so it's like, yay.
I mean,
in other words, we probably just like if Visceroids didn't spawn in the game. So
the funniest thing that Visceroids can do is when you start the game with an MCV only, and you pick up a crate, and it spawns a Visceroid that follows your MCV around the entire time and kills it because you can't deploy. Solid meme.
Don't they actually spawn as well? Like,
yeah, they can't just regularly spawn.
I think if you have infantry next to a Tiberium tree, sometimes they spawn if it kills infantry. I think.
No, they just spawn randomly. They just spawn randomly.
In Tiberian Sun, if your infantry dies in Tiberium, they turn into Visceroids, and then if you get like a couple of them, it turns into a bigger Visceroid that attacks things. In Tiberian Dawn, they seem to just spawn randomly. They don't seem to actually be connected to Tiberium.
They can spawn randomly or from crates, but
yeah,
they have like the Chem warrior weapon, and they can squash things, which is a bit weird.
Yeah, the crushing is annoying because you're like, I'll get some grenadiers that quickly take this thing out, and it like runs over a couple.
I prefer to use minigunners, but I mean they kind of eat minigunners as well.
Yeah.
Plus, they have that weird thing about having the same AI as regular AI units, so they always attack the northernmost thing on the map first. Like, who remembers the map? Who remembers the map Village of the Unfortunate, right? If you spawned at the very top of the map, like within like 30 seconds, you'd be swarmed with like 100 civilians just trying to kill you. It's like, oh no, whatever will I do?
Cool. So that's all of our changes. Is there anything else that you guys would like to see balance-wise changed?
Everything I just mentioned, maybe. I can't remember everything I just said. Oh, the Chem Warrior HP buff, Light Tank HP buff. And Flame Tank HP buff.
Light Tank and what, sorry?
Flame Tank and Light Tank need a small HP tweak. Just a little improvement.
Yeah. We need one of the ones I'd like to see would be actually a range buff on the Light Tank or something.
I don't think they need one though, because I mean, if you really want to go tank v tank, you want to go strength in numbers, which obviously, you know, you have more numbers, but you should have a weakness against GDI armor. That's just by standard.
But it also helps you to be able to shoot over the top of like bikes and etc.
I guess.
At the moment, I think they have the same range as like the bikes, so it allows them to actually be a little bit buffed against like rocket soldiers and stuff as well.
I don't know. I think the only thing you should ever change on it is its HP at this point. It's a perfectly good unit. It just needs to be used in a specific way that doesn't really have much use at the moment.
Right.
But with all the other changes combined, it should become a lot better.
Yeah.
Particularly against Humvees and MLRS.
We'll also be introducing.
Yeah. That's part of it, is that we need to sort of test out the changes, because at the moment it's just so damn overshadowed by light vehicles to the point that there's very rarely any reason to build them. If GDI has more of an answer to light vehicles, then maybe we see more of them used, basically, is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
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 But I do think they should be buffed a little bit in some way, in the same sort of sense that we're buffing the Humvees a little bit. But they need to stay basically worse than a medium tank.
But they light tanks are actually, by the name, tanks. They're supposed to tank damage for the more like fragile damage sources to do their stuff. So you see them combined a lot with like bikes or artillery or rocket soldiers. So it's like, you know, they need to be a bit tanky to stay in the combat. And then obviously you've got flame tanks, which are a melee range ramming weapon, which need more HP for that reason.
Yeah, the only other thing I'd say for a light tank, for flame tank, would be maybe like a slight speed increase, which would also do the same sort of thing as an HP buff, and then it would, because of the way that speed mitigates damage, and it would slide it into combat a little bit better.
One of the two. I prefer HP, but the logic works the same way. So yeah. It's just to give those like niche nod units a bit more use against GDI, because I mean they're still usable in nod v nod, but yeah. That mix of every unit is now usable.
In saying that, even if like the Humvees are more usable and you see more of them, then maybe like Flame Tank gets more use because of that.
Yeah.
Possible. But I suspect Nod will still be on the attack, because if buggies are better than it, then it'll still...
Yeah, bike buggy should still be strong, but it shouldn't be like overpoweringly strong that nothing else needs using.
Yeah. Agreed. Bring out those tech units, basically.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so that about wraps us up, actually. We've been going at this for, I don't know, a couple of hours at least.
About 3 hours, I think.
Yeah,
Damn.
good stuff. So maybe we can do something like this again, and we'll try and find some topics for us to talk about, and yeah, we'll bring some more info to our community, and hopefully the guys doing the remaster will pay a little bit of attention and might get some ideas and implement some good stuff for us.
You better.
Yeah, but other than that,
I think we need to create more community content, not necessarily just like podcasts and stuff, but maybe just like play more games.
Yeah, for sure. But I think
that
could
be.
But I think we're a little bit splintered at the moment. Like
that could be something that comes with this new like minor community balance patch. Maybe like once this comes around, we can play a lot more and test it a lot more and get more information out about it. See how it works.
Yeah, for sure. I'll get some videos up and yeah, get the community involved a little bit. I think at the moment the problem is we're just a bit splintered. Like Ferret's working on his mod and playing his mod. Like you're off doing RA2 Mental Omega. Yeah. And then like me and Lovehandles have been, I don't know, I guess I've been playing a little bit of Dawn, but I've been pretty on and off playing the game all in all. So yeah, we've been off doing different things, I think. So maybe if we come together on this, we can pump out some pretty cool content, and yeah, for sure.
See how it goes.
Yeah. Alrighty, sounds good. I think we'll wrap it up at that. Thanks to everyone who's listening, and we'll catch you on the battlefield, I guess.
Is there a set time of when this patch will go live, do you know? Or is that still in the works?
Well, I think we've got the numbers down of what we want to actually implement, so now it's just a matter of poking Funky with a stick.
We can make like final tweaks to this and then send it off, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty much like do all the tweaks that you need to do kind of thing, and then we'll just pop up over to Funky.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right.
And then for
Alrighty,
everyone
guys.
listening, hop over to CnCNet.org. You can pretty much play any of the games for the most part. So just hop over there, and you'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Smart bunch.
We need more maps as well, right? Where we can actually get a proper spectator to watch like games and stuff. Because the only maps that really works is when everyone spawns in the same spot. I'd like to see more like spectator content of 2 players. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I did try and sort of make some 3-player maps where that would hopefully work, but they're a little bit choky. But I might try and work on something like that again.
I'm not very good at making maps, so I can't really help on that side. But I'd like to see more content in general, really. I think we've all dropped off a bit. Maybe we should get back into the game.
Yeah, but it would be good to have a spectator mode so we can actually like do that more properly. I mean, even just something like Red Alert has today. Like you can have a 2-player map and then you can have like a number of spectators. Just added in. So if we could get something like that for CnC1, that'd be really good.
Agreed.
Helpful. And then we could actually like talk about, we could have like games with the balance patch and other people, you know, doing just a commentary on stuff happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, this will be everything we discussed too is going to be super helpful. It's going to be super helpful for Jim for sure. Hopefully he sees this because there's a lot of good info in here that we talked about. And I think it's important for the longevity of the game in general. So.
Yeah, for sure. I'll try and get this. I mean, if you just clip this as a video or whatever, I'll try and post it on multiple places. I'll post up around, find some Facebook stuff.
I've also recorded all of this as well, so I can upload this too.
So
awesome.
I'll drop the link. I'll drop like the link or whatever to you guys, and hopefully someone could like just post on Reddit, stuff like that. We can post on Reddit. Obviously in the CnCNet Discord. I'll ask Grant about just posting on Facebook. Things of that nature. So.
Yeah.
Thing like last remarks, like anything you guys forgot to touch on, things like that. Like something that you're like, oh shit, I totally forgot to add this.
No, I don't think so. I think we pretty much covered everything.
Cool.
Lovehandles.
You know, anyway, I think cover all the bases more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with that, and we can come back and do another one sometime if we want to go over some other bits and pieces.
Yeah.
Or even just, you know, talk community stuff. Be pretty good.
Yeah, that'd be solid, I think. Do like a little like community series and shit.
Yeah, maybe this could be like a weekly podcast or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'd have to think up new topics, which is probably the hardest part about making a podcast.
Yeah. Well, maybe if anyone sort of sees, you know, if we post this up anywhere and you see this, if you guys want to head over to CnCNet and jump on the forum there and just make a thread and say I saw the podcast and I'd like to see, you know, you guys discuss these topics, or if you have any questions or, you know, feedback about stuff that you thought we were wrong about, like feel free to chuck it in there. We'll have a look at it. Sure.
CnCNet podcast, ask me anything.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Also, feedback on the balance patch as well when it goes live is going to be important.
Yeah.
Literally anything. Like if you think something's OP, just like bring it up.
Yep.
Stuff like that.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, that wraps it up, guys.
Yeah.
Cool.
That was really good.
It's good having you guys all here. It's nice talking to everybody again. And shit like that. So hopefully we get some more games going too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, thank you all for watching. Go over to CnCNet.org and yeah, see you guys there.
Yeah.
See you.
See you guys.
All right, there,
See
that's
ya.
it, boys.